The coffee burned before it even hit his shirt. Ryan Carter didn't flinch when the scalding liquid soaked through the fabric, didn't move when the designer cup shattered at his feet, didn't react when Ava Sterling's perfectly manicured hand connected with his chest for the second time. The entire cafe had gone silent, phones already recording. Capturing the moment, a billionaire CEO decided a single father didn't deserve to breathe the same air. What she didn't know, what the cameras were about to show the world, was that some men don't need money or status to prove their worth. They just need someone to push them one time too many. Before we dive into this story, I want to ask you a favor. Hit that like button right now. Drop a comment telling me what city you're watching from so I can see how far this story travels, and stick with me until the end. Trust me, you won't want to miss what happens next. The afternoon light filtered through the tall windows of Meridian Cafe, casting geometric shadows across the marble floor. Ryan Carter sat in the back corner booth. His broad shoulders relaxed against the leather seat, a half-finished cup of black coffee cooling in front of him. He checked his watch, 2:47 p.m. Mia's school let out at 3:15, which gave him exactly 28 minutes of quiet before he had to navigate the pickup line chaos. 28 minutes of not being dad. Just Ryan. He ran a hand through his dark hair and let his eyes close for a moment. The cafe hummed with the usual urban soundtrack, espresso machines hissing, ceramic clinking against ceramic, fragments of conversation blending into white noise. He'd been coming here for 3 months now, always on Tuesdays, always to the same corner booth that nobody seemed to want. The waitress, Carmen, knew his order by heart. Black coffee, no sugar. Sometimes a scone if Mia had eaten all her breakfast that morning, which she rarely did because 6-year-olds viewed food as an optional inconvenience between playing and more playing. Ryan opened his eyes and stared at the notebook in front of him. The page was blank except for a single sentence he'd written 40 minutes ago. Chapter 1. The House on Marlowe Street. He was supposed to be writing. The novel he'd been talking about writing for 2 years. The one his ex-wife used to mock during their arguments. You're not a writer, Ryan. You're a dreamer with delusions. She'd been good at that, finding the soft spots and pressing hard. He picked up the pen, then set it down again. The cafe door opened with a sharp chime. Ryan didn't look up immediately. People came and went constantly here. This was downtown, mid-afternoon, the sweet spot between lunch rush and evening crowd. But something shifted in the atmosphere. The conversations didn't stop exactly, but they changed pitch, got quieter, more aware. He glanced toward the entrance. Ava Sterling walked in like she owned the place, which she probably did. Ryan didn't follow celebrity news or business magazines, but even he recognized her. Hard to miss someone whose face appeared on billboards across the city. She was tall, maybe 5'9", with sharp features that photographs seemed to love. Her black suit probably cost more than his monthly rent. Everything about her screamed money and control, from the way she moved to the expression of mild contempt she wore while scanning the room. She wasn't alone. 2 assistants trailed behind her, a young woman clutching a tablet and a man in an expensive but slightly too tight suit who kept nodding at whatever Ava said, even though Ryan couldn't hear her speaking. Carmen appeared from behind the counter, her professional smile firmly in place. "Ms. Sterling, welcome back. Your usual table is occupied, Ava said, cutting her off. She was staring directly at the booth by the window, the good booth, the one with the view of the park across the street. An older couple sat there, sharing a piece of cake, completely unaware they were about to become a problem. "I can ask them to," Carmen started. "Don't bother." Ava turned, her eyes sweeping across the cafe with the kind of calculation people use when they're used to rearranging the world to their preferences. Her gaze landed on Ryan's corner booth, on Ryan himself. He looked down at his blank page and took a sip of lukewarm coffee. The clicking of her heels against marble grew louder. Ryan didn't move. He had 23 minutes left, 23 minutes before he had to transform back into the dad who made dinosaur-shaped pancakes and knew all the words to that irritating song from Mia's favorite cartoon. 23 minutes to just sit in a quiet booth and pretend he had his shit together. The clicking stopped. "You're in my spot." Ryan looked up. Ava Sterling stood beside his table, her 2 assistants hovering a respectful distance behind her. Up close, she was even more intimidating, not because of her appearance, but because of the absolute certainty radiating from her that the world would bend to accommodate her needs. "I'm sorry?" Ryan said. "This booth. You're in it. I need it." Ryan glanced around the cafe. At least 6 other empty tables were scattered around the space. There are other... I don't want another table. I want this one. The female assistant shifted uncomfortably, her fingers tightening around the tablet. The male assistant had frozen mid-nod, apparently unsure whether to nod at Ryan or keep nodding at Ava. Ryan set his coffee down carefully. I was here first. Ava's expression didn't change, but something cold flickered in her eyes. Do you know who I am? Should I? The question seemed to genuinely surprise her. Her mouth opened slightly, then closed. She recovered quickly, her expression hardening. I own Sterling Industries. We employ over 15,000 people across 4 continents. This cafe, she gestured vaguely, is in a building my company developed. So yes, you should know who I am. Ryan looked at her for a long moment. Then he picked up his pen and returned his attention to his blank page. Congratulations on your success. I'm still sitting here. The silence that followed was sharp enough to cut. When Ava spoke again, her voice had dropped several degrees. Excuse me? I said I'm still sitting here. Ryan didn't look up. You're welcome to join me if there's really nowhere else to sit, but I'm not moving. Boss. Join you? Ava laughed. A short, harsh sound. You think I want to sit with someone like you? Ryan's hand stopped moving. He set the pen down and looked up at her. Someone like me? Look at you. Ava gestured dismissively. Faded jeans, a shirt that's seen better days, sitting here taking up space in the middle of the afternoon. Let me guess. Unemployed? Between jobs? Pretending to write the great American novel while living off... What exactly? The cafe had gone completely quiet now. Everyone was watching. Phones were starting to appear, discreetly angled to capture the scene. Ryan took a breath, held it, released it slowly. I have a job. I work construction. Today's my day off. Construction? Ava smiled, but there was no warmth in it. So I was right. You're exactly the kind of person who thinks sitting in a cafe makes you sophisticated. Plain writer, plain intellectual, when really you're just ordinary. The word landed like a slap. Ryan felt heat rising in his chest, but he kept his voice level. I'm just trying to have a cup of coffee. That's it. You're the one making this complicated. Complicated? Ava's voice rose. You're squatting in my booth, in my cafe, in my building, and you have the audacity to tell me I'm making things complicated? Carmen appeared beside them. Her smile strained. Ms. Sterling, please, let me get you set up at another table. We have several... I don't want another table. Ava spun toward her. Why is that so difficult to understand? I want this one. I always sit here on Tuesday afternoons. It's my routine. It's my routine too, Ryan said quietly. Ava turned back to him, her eyes narrowing. Your routine? Your routine doesn't matter. You don't matter. You're nobody. A construction worker playing make-believe in a cafe you probably can't even afford. Something shifted in Ryan's expression. Not anger exactly, something colder, more final. I think you should walk away now. Or what? Ava stepped closer to the table. What are you going to do? You can't even afford a decent shirt, and you're going to threaten me? Ryan started to stand. Ava grabbed his coffee cup, still half full, still hot enough to steam, and threw the contents directly at his chest. The cafe erupted in gasps. At least a dozen phones were now openly recording, their owners no longer pretending to be discreet. Ryan stood completely still as coffee dripped down his shirt, soaking through to his skin. It was hot, not scalding, but hot enough to hurt. He didn't flinch, didn't react, just stood there, looking at Ava Sterling with an expression that made her take an involuntary step backward. Feel better? He asked. Ava's face flushed. She hadn't expected calm. She'd expected anger, expected him to yell or make a scene, expected to maintain control of the situation. His composure threw her off balance, and when people like Ava Sterling got off balance, they escalated. She shoved his notebook off the table. It hit the floor with a slap, pages scattering. Pick it up. Ryan didn't move. I said pick it up, Ava's voice cracked across the cafe. Pick up your pathetic little fantasy and get out of my sight. Carmen was trying to intervene now, her hands raised placatingly. Miss Sterling, please, we can. Ava shoved her aside. Not hard, but enough to make Carmen stumble. The male assistant finally found his voice. Miss Sterling, maybe we should. Shut up, Marcus. Ava's attention was fixed entirely on Ryan. You think you're better than me? You think your quiet little act makes you superior? You're nothing. You're nobody. You don't belong here. She reached out and shoved Ryan's chest with both hands. He barely moved. The coffee had already soaked through his shirt. Her hands left wet imprints on the fabric. He stood there, absorbing the push, his eyes never leaving hers. Walk away, he said again. His voice was quiet, but there was something underneath it now. Something that had been sleeping. Please, just walk away. Make me, Ava hissed. She shoved him again, harder this time. Ryan took half a step backward, his jaw tightening. Around them, the cafe had become a gallery of raised phones and wide eyes. Carmen was on her phone, probably calling security. The two assistants had backed away entirely, neither willing to be associated with what was happening. Last chance, Ryan said. Ava drew her hand back and swung at his face. Ryan moved, not with anger, not with aggression, with the kind of precision that comes from years of training, from muscle memory so deep it bypasses conscious thought. He caught her wrist mid-swing, his grip firm but not crushing, and in one smooth motion redirected her momentum, turning her body and bringing her arm up behind her back in a control hold. Ava gasped, more from shock than pain. Ryan had positioned himself so that he was barely touching her, just enough pressure to immobilize without hurting. His other hand was raised, palm out, a clear signal to everyone watching that this was restraint, not assault. I don't want to hurt you, he said quietly, close to her ear. But you need to stop. Ava struggled, but Ryan's positioning was perfect. Every movement she made only demonstrated how completely in control he was. She wasn't injured, the cameras captured that clearly, but she also couldn't break free. Let me go, she screamed. Let me go right now. When you calm down, Ryan said. Not before. The cafe was frozen. No one moved. No one spoke. The only sound was Ava's ragged breathing and the faint click of phone cameras capturing every second. Security arrived. Two large men in dark uniforms who stopped dead when they saw the scene. Ryan made eye contact with the nearest one. She attacked me, he said calmly. Multiple times. Everyone here saw it. I'm just keeping her from doing it again. The security guard looked at Carmen, who nodded confirmation, her face pale. I need you to let her go, sir, the guard said carefully. Will you restrain her? Ryan asked. I don't need to be restrained, Ava shouted. He assaulted me. Arrest him. Ma'am, we have multiple witnesses who saw you throw coffee on him and attack him first, the security guard said. Sir, I'm asking you to release her into our custody. Ryan looked at Ava. She was still struggling, but there was something new in her eyes now, not just anger, fear, the realization that she'd miscalculated badly. Promise me you won't attack me again when I let go, Ryan said. Go to hell. Ryan sighed and looked at the security guard. You see my problem. Miss Sterling, the guard said firmly. I need you to confirm you won't continue the altercation, otherwise we'll have to call the police. That cut through her rage. Ava went still. Fine, I won't touch him. Just get him off me. Ryan released her immediately and stepped back, his hands raised to show he was no longer a threat. Ava stumbled forward, caught herself on the edge of the table, and whirled around to face him. Her hair was disheveled, her suit jacket was askew. Her face was flushed with humiliation and fury. Around her, at least 20 people had captured the entire incident on video, and she knew it. Ryan could see the moment the reality hit her, the moment she understood what this would look like online. You're going to regret this, she said, her voice shaking. I will destroy you. I will ruin your life. Ryan bent down and started collecting the scattered pages of his notebook. I think you should leave now. I own this building. Then you should have behaved like it mattered to you. Ava opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. No words came. She looked around at the watching faces, at the phones still recording, at her assistants who were trying to pretend they were somewhere else entirely. This isn't over, she managed finally. Ryan straightened, his notebook held loosely in one hand, coffee still dripping from his shirt. Yes, he said quietly, it is. For a moment, they just stood there, the billionaire CEO and the construction worker, separated by 3 feet of marble floor and an unbridgeable gap in understanding. Then Ava turned and strode toward the exit, her assistant scrambling to follow. She made it to the door before stopping and looking back. "You have no idea who you just humiliated," she said. Ryan met her eyes. "Neither do you." She left. The door chimed behind her. For several seconds, nobody in the cafe moved or spoke. Then slowly, conversations resumed. Phones were lowered. Carmen appeared at Ryan's elbow with a stack of napkins. "Are you okay?" she asked. Ryan looked down at his coffee-soaked shirt and laughed, a genuine, slightly incredulous laugh. "Not really, no. I don't even know what that was." "That was my quiet Tuesday afternoon," Ryan said, dabbing futilely at his shirt. "Can I get that coffee to go? I need to pick up my daughter in 15 minutes, and I should probably change first." Carmen stared at him. "You're not going to press charges or anything?" Ryan shook his head. "I just want to get my kid and go home." "Someone's definitely going to post those videos online," Carmen said carefully. "Like, definitely. Everyone was recording. Let them." Ryan pulled out his wallet and left cash on the table, enough to cover his coffee and a generous tip. "I didn't do anything wrong." He gathered his notebook, nodded to Carmen, and walked toward the exit. People parted to let him through, some of them still holding their phones. At the door, he paused and turned back. "Hey, does anyone know if there's a laundromat nearby? I can't pick up my daughter looking like this." Someone directed him to a place 2 blocks over. Ryan thanked them and left, stepping out into the afternoon sunlight, leaving behind a cafe full of people who were already uploading videos with captions like "Billionaire CEO loses it on regular guy" and "Watch this woman attack a man in a cafe." Ryan made it halfway to the laundromat before his hands started shaking. The laundromat was called Suds and Bubbles, which Ryan thought was aggressively cheerful for a place that smelled like industrial detergent and defeat. He stood in the bathroom, stripped down to his undershirt, and tried to scrub the coffee stains out of his button-down in the sink. It wasn't working. He stared at his reflection in the scratched mirror, dark circles under his eyes. 2 days of stubble he kept meaning to shave, the scar on his left eyebrow from that deployment in Kandahar that felt like someone else's memory now. His hands were still trembling slightly, not from fear, from adrenaline crash. It had been years since he'd had to restrain someone, since the Marines, since before Mia, since before everything had fallen apart and been rebuilt into this smaller, quieter life. The muscle memory was still there, but the emotional aftermath hit differently now. He wasn't a soldier anymore. He was a dad who needed to pick up his kid from school in 12 minutes and couldn't do it wearing a coffee-stained shirt. His phone buzzed. Text from Derek, his work partner. Dude, are you the guy in this video?" Ryan's stomach dropped. He pulled out his phone and opened the link Derek had sent. The video was already at 47,000 views. Someone had captured the entire incident from multiple angles. Ryan watched himself, calm, measured, responding to Ava's escalation with restraint that looked almost choreographed. The comments were exploding in real time. "Who is this guy?" She threw coffee on him, and he's the one who kept his cool. That control hold was textbook. Meanwhile, she's having a complete meltdown over a seat billionaires really think they can do whatever they want. Ryan closed the video and texted Derek back. "Yeah, that's me. Long story. Tell you tomorrow." 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Then, "Bro, you're going viral." Ryan splashed cold water on his face and looked at the wet shirt in his hands. The stain wasn't coming out. He pulled his undershirt off, wrung out the button-down as best he could, and put it back on wet. It clung to his skin uncomfortably, but it was better than showing up at Mia's school looking like he'd been in a fight. Which, technically, he had been. His phone rang. Unknown number. Ryan answered anyway, expecting spam. "Is this Ryan Carter?" "Ba mas mate spine coming." The voice was female, professional, clipped. "Who's asking?" "My name is Jenna Wu. I'm a reporter with the Tribune. I'm calling about the incident at Meridian Cafe this afternoon. Do you have a moment to comment?" "No," Ryan said, and hung up. The phone rang again immediately. Different number. Ryan declined the call. Another call. Another decline. Text messages started flooding in, numbers he didn't recognize, all asking variations of the same questions. "Who are you? What happened? Can we interview you?" Ryan turned off his phone and got dressed. "Pati?"
Augustin?
Mia's school was a low brick building painted cheerful yellow, surrounded by a chain link fence decorated with student artwork and safety posters. Ryan parked his truck in the pickup line and checked his watch. 3:17 p.m. Late, but not by much. The door to Mia's classroom opened, and kids started streaming out, backpacks bouncing, voices carrying across the parking lot. Ryan spotted his daughter immediately. Dark curls pulled into two puffs, pink backpack almost as big as she was, talking animatedly to another girl. She saw his truck, and her whole face lit up. That look, that pure, uncomplicated joy at seeing him, made everything else shrink down to manageable size. The viral video, the calls from reporters, the fact that he'd been in an altercation with one of the richest people in the city, all of it became background noise. Mia ran to the truck and yanked open the door. "Daddy, guess what? We learned about butterflies today, and Miss Chen said that butterflies taste with their feet." "Their feet, Daddy? Can you imagine?" Ryan grinned. "No, baby, I really can't." She climbed into her booster seat and started buckling herself in. She was very proud of being able to do it herself now. "Why is your shirt wet?"
Spilled coffee, Ryan said, which was technically true. "You should be more careful." "You're absolutely right."
Mia launched into a detailed explanation of butterfly metamorphosis as Ryan pulled out of the parking lot. He listened, making appropriate sounds of interest, while his mind kept circling back to the cafe, to Ava Sterling's face when she realized she'd miscalculated, to the phones recording everything, to whatever came next, because something would come next. People like Ava Sterling didn't just let things go. "Daddy, you're not listening." Ryan blinked and focused on the rearview mirror. Mia was watching him with that knowing expression 6-year-olds sometimes got, the one that said she saw more than adults gave her credit for. "I'm listening," Ryan said. "Chrysalis. Very cool. You're thinking about something else. Just work stuff, baby." "Is it bad work stuff?" Ryan paused at a red light and turned to look at her. "No, just complicated. Nothing for you to worry about." "Okay." Mia went back to her monologue about butterfly life cycles. They stopped at the grocery store. Mia needed poster board for a school project, and they were out of mac and cheese, which was basically a household emergency. Ryan grabbed a cart and let Mia ride in the front basket like she was still small enough for it to be appropriate. His phone was still off. He kept it that way. In the art supplies aisle, an older woman did a double take when she saw him. Then she pulled out her phone and started typing quickly. Ryan grabbed the poster board and moved to the next aisle. At checkout, the teenage cashier kept glancing at him, then at her phone screen, then back at him. She finally said. Did you... Never mind." Ryan paid in cash and got out of there. In the truck, Mia was singing to herself, something from that cartoon she loved. Ryan turned the key in the ignition and sat there for a moment, his hands on the steering wheel. "Daddy?" "Yeah, baby?" "Are you sad?" Ryan looked at her in the rearview mirror. "No, I'm not sad. I'm just tired." "We could have mac and cheese and watch a movie tonight," Mia suggested. "That makes you not tired." Ryan smiled, a real smile this time. "That sounds perfect." Their apartment was small, 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, a kitchen that barely fit a table and 2 chairs. The building was old but maintained, with hardwood floors that creaked and windows that let in good light. Ryan's bedroom had a bed, a dresser, and the punching bag he'd installed last year. Mia's room was an explosion of color, drawings taped to every wall, stuffed animals colonizing every surface. A galaxy projected on the ceiling that rotated slowly when she went to sleep. Ryan made the mac and cheese while Mia spread out her homework on the coffee table. She was supposed to draw her favorite animal and write 3 facts about it. She'd chosen dolphins. "Daddy, how do you spell communicate?" Ryan spelled it out while stirring the pot. "Daddy, do dolphins sleep?" "Sort of. Half their brain sleeps at a time." "That's so cool. Can people do that?" "Some people try." Mia giggled. "You mean like you when you're watching boring shows?" "Exactly like that." They ate dinner on the couch, watching an animated movie about a robot who cleaned up trash. Mia fell asleep 20 minutes before the ending, her head on Ryan's shoulder, mac and cheese orange lingering at the corner of her mouth. Ryan carried her to bed, tucked her in, turned on the galaxy projector. He stood in the doorway for a moment, watching the artificial stars rotate across her ceiling, listening to her breathe. This was what mattered, this right here. He closed her door softly and went back to the living room. His phone was still off. He turned it on. 147 missed calls, over 300 text messages. The video from the cafe had been viewed 2.3 million times. Ryan sat down heavily on the couch and started scrolling through the messages. Most were from reporters. Some were from numbers he didn't recognize, but whose messages made it clear they'd somehow gotten his information. People offering support, people offering money, people offering to hire lawyers. One text stood out. "This is Marcus Chen, Ms. Sterling's assistant. She would like to speak with you privately to resolve this matter. Please call this number at your earliest convenience." Ryan deleted it. Another message from Derek. "Every news station in the city is running the story. You're going to want to see this." Derek had included a link. Ryan clicked it. The video played on his phone screen, news anchors discussing the incident with serious expressions. Questions tonight about privilege and power after video emerges of billionaire CEO Ava Sterling assaulting a man at a downtown cafe. The man, identified only as Ryan C., defended himself without striking back, leading many to praise his restraint. Sterling Industries has not yet released a statement. Ryan turned the TV on and flipped to a news channel. There he was, on national television. Ava Sterling throwing coffee on him, Ava shoving him. Ryan catching her wrist and immobilizing her with precision that the news commentators kept calling remarkable restraint. "Look at his positioning," a self-defense expert was saying in an interview. "He's not trying to hurt her. He's simply preventing her from hurting him. That's extremely difficult to do under pressure. This suggests training, military or law enforcement, most likely." Another channel. Different commentators, same footage. "This is what unchecked power looks like," a woman was saying. Ava Sterling felt entitled to that booth, entitled to that man's submission, entitled to physically assault him when he didn't comply. And she assumed there would be no consequences because there never have been before. Ryan changed the channel again. "A legal expert. If he chooses to press charges, Sterling could face assault charges. The video evidence is overwhelming. However, given her resources, she'll likely attempt a settlement to keep this out of court." Mo Taswam, another channel, a social media analyst. "The hashtag coffee courage is trending worldwide. People are calling Ryan C. a hero for not retaliating, for maintaining his dignity, for showing that real strength is restraint, not aggression." Ryan turned off the TV. The apartment was quiet except for the hum of the refrigerator and the distant sound of traffic. He sat in the dark, thinking about what his life was going to look like tomorrow, whether he'd be able to go to work without reporters following him, whether Mia's school would become a target for cameras, whether Ava Sterling would make good on her threat to destroy him. His phone buzzed. Text from a number he didn't recognize. "Ryan, this is Lieutenant Chen from your unit. Saw the video. Proud of you, brother. You kept it clean. Semper Fi." Another text, different number. "Mr. Carter, this is Attorney Sarah Mitchell. I represent individuals in cases against corporate entities. I'd like to offer my services pro bono if you decide to pursue legal action. No obligation, just want you to know you have options, more texts, more calls, more people inserting themselves into his life without permission." Ryan stood and went to his punching bag, wrapped his hands, started hitting, not hard, not angry, just steady rhythm, each impact a meditation, each movement a reminder that he was still in control of something. He worked the bag until his shoulders burned and his knuckles ached through the wraps. Then he unwrapped his hands, showered, and climbed into bed. Sleep didn't come. He stared at the ceiling and thought about trajectories. How one moment, one decision to not give up a booth in a cafe could redirect everything. How defending yourself could become a public spectacle. How privacy could evaporate in the time it took to upload a video. How a woman who'd probably never heard the word no had heard it from him and couldn't process the experience. His phone lit up with another call. Ryan looked at the screen. Marcus Chen, Sterling Industries. He let it go to voicemail. In the morning, everything would be different. The story would have spread further. More reporters would have his information. Ava Sterling's lawyers would be crafting strategies. But right now, in this moment, Mia was asleep in the next room dreaming about dolphins. And Ryan was exactly where he needed to be, between her and whatever came next. He turned his phone off again and closed his eyes. Tomorrow could wait. Ryan woke to the sound of someone pounding on his apartment door. For a disoriented moment, he thought he was back in the barracks, that it was 0500 and someone was late for formation. Then reality assembled itself. The morning light through his bedroom window, the distant hum of traffic, Mia's voice calling from her room asking if it was time to get up yet. The pounding continued. Ryan pulled on jeans and a t-shirt and walked to the door, checking the peephole. Two men in suits stood in the hallway, one holding a briefcase, the other looking at his phone. Neither looked like they were selling anything. They looked expensive. He opened the door but kept the chain lock engaged. "Can I help you?" The one with the briefcase smiled. Professional, practiced. "Mr. Ryan Carter? My name is David Brennan, and this is my colleague James Park. We're attorneys representing Sterling Industries. We'd like to speak with you about yesterday's incident. It's 6:30 in the morning." "We apologize for the early visit," Brennan said, his smile never wavering. "We tried calling yesterday evening, but you didn't answer. This is a time-sensitive matter, and we thought a personal visit might be more effective." "Daddy?" Mia appeared behind him in her pajamas, rubbing her eyes. "Who is it?" Ryan didn't turn around. "Nobody, baby. Go pick out your clothes for school. But, now please." Mia shuffled away and Ryan heard her bedroom door close. He looked back at the two men through the gap in the door. "You need to leave." "Mr. Carter, we understand you're upset about what happened," Park said, speaking for the first time. "Ms. Sterling deeply regrets the incident. She was having an extremely stressful day and she behaved inappropriately. She wants to make this right." "By sending lawyers to my home at 6:30 in the morning?" Brennan reached into his briefcase and pulled out a manila envelope. "We'd like to offer you a settlement, a generous one, in exchange for signing a non-disclosure agreement and agreeing not to pursue legal action or speak publicly about the incident." Ryan stared at the envelope. How generous. No, $250,000. The number hung in the air between them. $250,000. More money than Ryan had seen in his entire life. Enough to move to a better apartment, to put away for Mia's college, to stop worrying about whether the truck would make it through another winter. Plus coverage of any medical expenses or damages, Park added. And a formal written apology from Ms. Sterling, if you'd like one, though that would remain private per the NDA terms. Shh. Michkain. Ryan looked at the envelope, then at the two men. "And if I don't sign?" Brennan's smile tightened almost imperceptibly. "Then this becomes a protracted legal battle. Ms. Sterling has extensive resources and some of the best attorneys in the country. You'd be fighting for years, spending money you don't have on lawyers, having your life dissected in court and in the media, and at the end of all that, you might win nothing. Or I might win a lot more than $250,000. It's possible," Brennan conceded, "but unlikely. And in the meantime, your daughter, Mia, is it, would grow up watching her father fight a very public, very ugly battle. Is that what you want for her?" Something cold settled in Ryan's chest. "Did you just threaten my daughter?" Park raised his hands. "No one's threatening anyone, Mr. Carter. We're simply pointing out the realities of the situation. This offer allows you to move forward with your life without the stress and expense of litigation." "You came to my home," Ryan said quietly. "You knocked on my door before 7 in the morning, knowing my daughter was here. You looked up where I live, where she goes to school probably. And now you're standing here telling me what's best for her? Mr. Carter, get out." Brennan's smile vanished. "You're making a mistake. I've made plenty of those. This isn't one of them. Leave. Now." "The offer expires at 5 p.m. today," Brennan said, pulling a business card from his pocket and sliding it through the gap in the door. It fell to the floor. "After that, things get more complicated. For everyone involved. Washerichi." Ryan closed the door in their faces and stood there, breathing hard, his hand still on the knob. He heard their footsteps retreating down the hallway, heard the elevator ding, heard them leave. When he turned around, Mia was standing in the hallway in the purple dress she'd picked out, her backpack already on. "Who were those men?" she asked. Ryan picked up the business card from the floor and tossed it in the trash. "Nobody important." "They seemed important." Seeming important and being important are different things. Ryan went to the kitchen and started making breakfast. "You want pancakes or cereal?" "Pancakes, the dinosaur ones." Dinosaur pancakes coming up. Mia climbed onto a stool at the counter and watched him mix batter. Madison's mom said you're famous now. Ryan's hand stilled on the whisk. What? Madison's mom picked her up from school yesterday, and she was talking to another mom, and she said you were famous because of a video. Mia swung her legs. Are you famous, Daddy? No, baby. I'm not famous. But there's a video? Ryan poured batter onto the griddle, forming a rough approximation of a stegosaurus. Yeah, there's a video. Can I see it? Absolutely not. Why not? Because it's not appropriate for 6-year-olds. Mia considered this. Is it scary? Ryan flipped the pancake. It's just grown-up stuff, nothing you need to worry about. Okay. She accepted this easily, the way kids did when they trusted the adults around them to handle the complicated things. Can my pancake have extra syrup? Nice try. Regular syrup. They ate breakfast together, and Ryan tried not to think about the fact that lawyers had shown up at his door, that they knew where he lived, where Mia went to school, that they'd offered him enough money to change his life and threatened him in the same conversation. His phone sat on the counter, still off. Ryan stared at it while Mia chattered about a project her class was doing on recycling. He needed to turn it on eventually. He had work today, a job site across town, a renovation on an old warehouse. Derek would be wondering where he was, but turning the phone on meant dealing with everything waiting on the other side. Daddy, you're doing it again. Ryan blinked. Doing what? Not listening. Sorry, baby. Recycling. Very important. Mia pointed her fork at him. Miss Chen says when people don't listen, it means they're stressed or worried. Miss Chen sounds pretty smart. She is. She has 3 college degrees. 3? Wow. Are you stressed or worried? Ryan looked at his daughter, her serious expression, her syrup-sticky fingers, her absolute faith that he had everything under control. A little, he admitted, but nothing I can't handle. Okay, but if you need help, you can ask me. I'll remember that. Ryan dropped Mia at school, watching until she disappeared through the door, her pink backpack bouncing. 3 mothers in the parking lot were staring at his truck. One of them pulled out her phone. Ryan put the truck in gear and left before any of them could approach. The job site was on the east side, a warehouse conversion that a developer was turning into loft apartments. Ryan pulled up and found Derek already there, sitting on the tailgate of his truck, drinking coffee from a thermos. There he is, Derek said, grinning. The most famous construction worker in America. Don't start. Too late. It's already started. Derek held up his phone. You've got your own hashtag. Multiple hashtags, actually. I made a list. I don't want to see it. Coffee courage, defend not attack. Ryan vs. Goliath. That one's pretty good, actually. Oh, and my personal favorite, Dad Justice. Ryan grabbed his tool belt from the truck. I'm going inside. Reporters were here an hour ago, Derek said, following him. Wanted to know if we could confirm you work here, if we could give them quotes about what kind of person you are. I told them you're a terrible employee who's always late and smells like old cheese. Thanks. They didn't believe me. I showed them the video of you organizing the tool shed that one time. They said it proved you were detail-oriented and disciplined. Ryan stopped walking. What video? I'm kidding. Jesus, you're wound tight. Derek clapped him on the shoulder. But seriously, man, are you okay? That whole thing looked intense. It was fine. You restrained a billionaire CEO in the middle of a cafe. That's not fine. That's insane. She threw coffee on me and attacked me. I defended myself. I know. Everyone knows. That's why you're trending worldwide. Derek took a sip of coffee. Sterling Industries released a statement this morning. Want to hear it? Not really. Derek pulled out his phone and read anyway. Sterling Industries and Ms. Ava. Sterling deeply regret the incident that occurred yesterday at Meridian Cafe. Ms. Sterling was experiencing a personal crisis and reacted inappropriately. We are committed to resolving this matter privately and respectfully with all parties involved. Personal crisis? Ryan repeated. That's what they're calling it. Meanwhile, the internet has decided you're Captain America. Ryan pushed open the warehouse door. Inside, the space was gutted down to brick and beams, sunlight streaming through industrial windows. It smelled like sawdust and possibility. He'd been working this job for 3 weeks, framing out the individual units, running electrical conduit, installing HVAC. Honest work. Simple work. Work that made sense. So what are you going to do? Derek asked. My job. I mean about Sterling, about the video, about the fact that you could probably sue her for a fortune. Ryan picked up a measuring tape. I'm going to do my job, pick up my daughter, and go home. That's it. Her lawyers contacted you yet? Ryan measured a section of wall and marked it with a pencil. This morning. And I told them to leave. Derek whistled. How much did they offer? Doesn't matter. It was a lot, wasn't it? You've got that look. What look? The look you get when you're trying not to think about something. Derek leaned against the wall. Talk to me, man. This is bigger than you're admitting. Ryan set down the measuring tape and turned to face his friend. They came to my apartment at 6:30 in the morning. They knew where I lived, where Mia goes to school. They offered me money to shut up and sign an NDA, and when I hesitated, they basically threatened to drag my life through court for years. Jesus. So yeah, it's bigger than I'm admitting, but what am I supposed to do about it? I didn't ask for any of this. I just wanted to sit in a cafe and have some coffee. Derek was quiet for a moment. Then he said, You know you don't have to fight this alone, right? You've got people. I've got a 6-year-old daughter and a job that pays by the hour. That's what I've got. You've also got the entire internet on your side, apparently. That's worth something. Is it? Ryan picked up his drill. Or is it just noise? They worked in silence for a while, the familiar rhythm of construction soothing Ryan's frayed nerves. Measure, cut, drill, secure. Simple, logical. No cameras, no lawyers, no viral videos. Around 11, Derek's phone rang. He answered, listened, then held it out to Ryan. It's Martinez, says he needs to talk to you. Carlos Martinez was their foreman, a barrel-chested man in his 50s who'd been in construction since before Ryan was born. Ryan took the phone. Yeah? Carter, we got a problem. Martinez's voice was gruff. Channel 7 is outside the site with cameras. They're asking to speak with you. I told them to get lost, but they're not leaving. Ryan closed his eyes. I'll handle it. You don't have to handle anything. I can call the cops, have them trespassed. No, it's fine. I'll talk to them. You sure? Yeah, thanks, Martinez. Ryan handed the phone back to Derek and headed for the door. Want backup? Derek asked. No, stay here. Finish that wall section. Outside, a news van was parked on the street, and a woman in a blue suit was standing with a cameraman checking her appearance in a compact mirror. When she saw Ryan, she snapped it shut and plastered on a smile. Mr. Carter, Kelly Robbins, Channel 7 News. Do you have a moment to talk about what happened at Meridian Cafe? Ryan kept walking toward his truck. No comment. The video has been viewed over 10 million times now. People are calling you a hero. How does that feel? I'm not a hero. I'm just a guy who got coffee thrown on him. Kelly Robbins followed him, the cameraman keeping pace. Sources say Sterling Industries offered you a settlement. Can you confirm that? Ryan stopped and turned to face the camera. I'm not discussing anything about this situation. I'd appreciate it if you'd respect my privacy and the privacy of my daughter. So it's true you're a single father? I'm done talking. Ryan got in his truck. Kelly Robbins stepped closer. One more question. Do you think Ava Sterling should face criminal charges for assault? Ryan started the engine. I think people should be held accountable for their actions. All people. Now please move away from my truck. She stepped back and Ryan pulled away, watching in his rearview mirror as she turned to the camera to deliver what would probably become another segment on the evening news. His phone, which he'd finally turned on that morning, buzzed constantly as he drove. Text messages, missed calls, voicemails. Ryan ignored all of it until he was parked at a gas station 2 miles from the job site. Then he scrolled through. Most were reporters. Some were strangers offering support or criticism. But 3 stood out. The first was from attorney Sarah Mitchell, the woman who'd offered pro bono representation. Mr. Carter, I heard Sterling's lawyers visited your home. That's intimidation, and it's not acceptable. Please call me. You need someone in your corner. The second was from Marcus Chen, Ava Sterling's assistant. Mr. Carter, Ms. Sterling would like to extend the settlement offer to $500,000. This is her final offer. Please consider carefully. The third was from a number with a New York area code. Mr. Carter, this is Andrea Walsh from Good Morning America. We'd like to offer you an opportunity to tell your side of the story to a national audience. Full editorial control, no ambush questions. Please call me back. $500,000. National television. Ryan sat in his truck watching numbers on the gas pump climb, trying to process what his life had become in less than 24 hours. Yesterday morning, he'd been nobody. Anonymous. A single dad working construction, trying to write a novel he'd probably never finish, just existing in the comfortable obscurity of ordinary life. Now he was a hashtag, a symbol, a story people were using to make points about wealth, inequality, and privilege and accountability. And Ava Sterling was so desperate to make him disappear that she doubled her offer. His phone rang. Unknown number. Ryan almost didn't answer, but something made him pick up. Hello? Mr. Carter? The voice was female, older, warm. My name is Diane Martinez. I'm a social worker with Child Protective Services. Ryan's blood went cold. Why are you calling me? We received an anonymous tip this morning expressing concern about your daughter's welfare. Given the violent incident captured on video yesterday, violent incident? I was defending myself. I understand, and I'm not suggesting you did anything wrong, but we're required to follow up on all reports involving potential exposure of minors to violence. I'd like to schedule a home visit, just a routine check to ensure everything is appropriate for your daughter. Someone called CPS on me? Ryan's voice was rising. Someone saw a video of me defending myself and decided to report me as an unfit parent? Mr. Carter, please understand. This is standard procedure. We just need to verify that your home environment is safe and that your daughter is being properly cared for. If everything checks out, the case will be closed immediately. And if I refuse, that would raise red flags and likely result in a more extensive investigation. Diane's voice remained calm, professional. I'm trying to make this as painless as possible. Can we schedule something for later this week? Ryan squeezed the steering wheel so hard his knuckles went white. Friday afternoon, after I pick my daughter up from school. That works? I'll be there at 4 p.m. Thank you for your cooperation, Mr. Carter. She hung up. Ryan sat there, the phone still pressed to his ear, rage and fear churning in his gut. Someone had weaponized CPS against him. Someone had watched him defend himself and decided the best response was to threaten his relationship with his daughter. And he knew exactly who. He pulled up Marcus Chen's number and called it. Chen answered on the second ring. Mr. Carter, thank you for... Tell Ava Sterling that if she comes near my daughter, if she uses CPS or lawyers or anything else to threaten my family, I will make it my life's mission to destroy her. Do you understand me? Mr. Carter, I don't know what you're talking about. CPS called me 20 minutes ago. Anonymous tip. Convenient timing, don't you think? Ms. Sterling had nothing to do with... Don't insult my intelligence. Tell her the offer's off. Tell her I'm not signing anything. Tell her I'm done being threatened. Mr. Carter, please listen. Ryan hung up and immediately called Sarah Mitchell. She answered with, I was wondering when you'd call. I need a lawyer, Ryan said. They're coming after my daughter now. Who's coming after your daughter? Sterling, or her people. Someone called CPS filed an anonymous report about me being violent. They're doing a home visit on Friday. Sarah was quiet for a moment. That's aggressive and stupid on their part. Can they do this? Can they use CPS as a weapon? They can file a report. CPS is legally obligated to investigate. But if your home is appropriate and your daughter is well cared for, which I'm assuming she is, the case will be closed. It's harassment, but it's legal harassment. So what do? You let them do the home visit. You be polite and cooperative. You show them that you're exactly what you are, a good father doing his best. And then we document everything and prepare for the real fight, which is Sterling Industries is going to come at you with everything they have. They've already tried money and intimidation. When those don't work, they'll try public relations. They'll dig into your past, find anything they can use against you, and they'll leak it to the press. We need to get ahead of that. Ryan thought about his past, the Marines, the deployments, the divorce. Nothing scandalous, but nothing he particularly wanted dissected in public either. How do we get ahead of it? He asked. You tell your story first, on your terms. Good Morning America isn't a bad option. National audience, credible platform, opportunity to control the narrative. But I'd recommend something more in-depth. A long-form interview where you can explain who you are, why you responded the way you did, what your life is actually like. I don't want to be famous. You're already famous. The question now is whether you're going to be famous as a victim, a villain, or a human being. Right now, you're a symbol. We need to make you a person. Ryan leaned his head against the steering wheel. I just want this to go away. It's not going away. Not until Ava Sterling decides it's over, or until you make her decide it's over. And the only way to do that is to stop letting her control the story. I need to think about this. You don't have much time. Every hour you stay silent, someone else is filling in the blanks. Friends, colleagues, your ex-wife. People will talk to reporters whether you want them to or not. My ex-wife? Ryan hadn't even thought about Jessica. She'd probably already been contacted, probably already said things that would make him look bad. If you do this, we do it right, Sarah said. We prepare, we practice. We make sure you're ready. I'll be with you the whole time. Boss Seichi, Sarnitz, can I call you back? Of course, but Ryan, don't wait too long. Ryan ended the call and just sat there in the gas station parking lot, watching people pump gas and buy lottery tickets and live their normal, uncomplicated lives. His phone buzzed. Text from Derek. Martinez wants to know if you're coming back today. Ryan texted back, yeah, 10 minutes. But he sat there for 20, trying to figure out how his life had become a tactical situation requiring lawyers and media strategy and preparation. When he finally drove back to the job site, there were 2 more news vans parked outside. Derek was waiting by the entrance. They multiplied, he said, like rabbits. Rabbits with cameras and ambitions. Did they try to come inside? Martinez threatened to turn the hose on them. I don't think he was kidding. Bum Schutz. Ryan looked at the vans, at the reporters checking their phones and drinking coffee, waiting for him to give them something usable. I'm going to need to take some time off. How much time? I don't know yet. A few days, maybe? Derek nodded slowly. This is really happening, isn't it? This is actually a thing now. Yeah. You need money? I've got some saved up. No. Ryan gripped Derek's shoulder. Thanks, but no. I'll figure it out. What are you going to do? Ryan looked at the news vans, thought about CPS coming to his home, about Ava Sterling sitting somewhere in her tower deciding how to make him disappear. I'm going to fight back, he said. That evening, after picking up Mia from school and making dinner and reading her 3 chapters of the book they were working through together, Ryan sat in his living room with his laptop and started Googling Ava Sterling. The internet had a lot to say about her. She'd inherited Sterling Industries from her father at 25, growing it from a mid-sized real estate firm into a multi-billion-dollar conglomerate. She'd been featured in Forbes, Fortune, Business Insider. She was known for aggressive acquisition strategies, for outmaneuvering competitors, for never backing down from a fight. She'd also been in the news for less flattering reasons. 3 sexual harassment complaints filed by former employees, all settled out of court with NDAs. A discrimination lawsuit from a former executive that was still ongoing. Multiple reports of toxic workplace culture, of assistants quitting after weeks, of anyone who crossed her finding themselves blacklisted in the industry. Ryan scrolled through article after article, building a picture of someone who'd spent her entire adult life getting exactly what she wanted, exactly when she wanted it. Until yesterday, when a construction worker in a coffee-stained shirt had said no. He found her personal social media, pristine, carefully curated, managed by a team. Photos of charity galas and business summits, and posed shots in expensive locations. Nothing real, nothing human. The comments on her recent posts were brutal. This you throwing coffee on people? How's it feel to be humiliated by a regular guy? Maybe try therapy instead of assault. Next time. #coffee. Courage. #dadjustice. Sterling. Industry's stock had dropped 3% in the last 24 hours. Small, but noticeable. Investors didn't like controversy. Ryan's phone rang. Sarah Mitchell. I've been thinking about your situation, she said without preamble, and I think you should hold a press conference. A what? A press conference. Tomorrow, if possible. You make a statement, take questions, control the narrative before it controls you. I'm not doing a press conference. Then do the Good Morning America interview. Do something. Because right now, Ava Sterling is rebuilding her image. And part of that rebuilding involves making you disappear. The longer you stay silent, the easier that becomes. Ryan closed his laptop. What would I even say? The truth. You're a single father. You work construction. You were having coffee on your day off when a woman you didn't know attacked you for not giving up your seat. You defended yourself without hurting her. You don't want money. You don't want fame. You just want to live your life. That's it. That's the whole story. And if they ask about my past, about the Marines, about my ex-wife, you answer honestly. You don't hide anything, but you don't apologize for anything either. You served your country. Your marriage didn't work out. You're raising your daughter alone and doing a good job. None of that is scandalous. They'll find something. Probably. But if you tell them first, you take away their power. Ryan thought about Mia, asleep in the next room, about the CPS visit on Friday, about lawyers showing up at his door and reporters stalking his job site. Okay, he said. Set it up. Good Morning America? No, a press conference, tomorrow at noon, downtown, somewhere public. I'll make a statement and take questions. Sarah was quiet for a moment. You're sure? No, but I'm doing it anyway. I'll set it up. We'll meet at my office at 9 to prepare. After they hung up, Ryan sat in the dark and wondered what the hell he was doing. He wasn't a public speaker. He wasn't a strategist. He was just a guy who defended himself and somehow become a symbol for something bigger than himself. His phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number. This is Ava Sterling. We need to talk. Just you and me. No lawyers. Please. Ryan stared at the message for a long time. Then he typed back. Tomorrow. Press conference at noon. You can watch it with everyone else. He turned off his phone and went to check on Mia. She was sprawled across her bed, one arm hanging off the edge, her stuffed dolphin clutched to her chest. The galaxy projector painted slow-moving stars across her peaceful face. Ryan stood in the doorway and made a promise to her sleeping form. Whatever happened tomorrow, whatever came after, he would protect her. From cameras and lawyers and billionaires who thought the world existed to serve them. He would protect her the same way he'd protected himself in that cafe, by refusing to back down. Sarah Mitchell's law office occupied the third floor of a converted brownstone in a neighborhood that had gentrified just enough to be respectable, but not enough to be pretentious. Ryan arrived at 8:45, 15 minutes early, because showing up late to prepare for a press conference felt like starting a fight by tripping over your own feet. The receptionist, a young man with thick-framed glasses and a bow tie, looked up from his computer and did a visible double-take. You're him. You're the coffee guy. I'm Ryan Carter, Ryan said, because he refused to be defined by someone else's bad behavior. Right, sorry. Miss Mitchell's expecting you. Third door on the left. Sarah's office was smaller than Ryan had expected. Bookshelves crammed with legal texts, a desk buried under case files, two mismatched chairs that looked like they'd been salvaged from different garage sales. Sarah herself was younger than she'd sounded on the phone, maybe late 30s, with dark hair pulled into a messy bun and the kind of sharp eyes that suggested she didn't miss much. She stood and extended her hand. Ryan, thanks for coming. Her handshake was firm. Ryan liked that. Have you thought about what you want to say? She asked, gesturing to one of the chairs. Ryan sat. Not really. I figured you'd tell me. That's not how this works. I can help you frame your message, but the words need to be yours. Otherwise, you'll sound coached, and people can smell that from a mile away. So what do I say? Sarah pulled a notepad from the chaos on her desk. Start with why you're holding a press conference. What do you want people to know? Ryan thought about it. That I'm not a victim or a hero. I'm just a guy who defended himself. Good. What else? That I won't be intimidated. That sending lawyers to my house and calling CPS on me isn't going to make me disappear. Sarah wrote quickly. Be careful with that second part. You're implying Sterling is behind the CPS call, which we can't prove. Who else would it be? Doesn't matter. In public, you stick to facts. You were contacted by CPS following an anonymous tip. You're cooperating fully because you have nothing to hide. You trust the system to see that your daughter is well cared for. Don't accuse, don't speculate. Ryan rubbed his face. This is already more complicated than I thought. Welcome to modern public relations. Everything you say will be dissected, clipped, and shared out of context. Your job is to be so clear and consistent that even out of context, you still sound reasonable. And if I screw up, then we deal with it. But you won't screw up if you remember one thing. You're not performing. You're just telling the truth. That's what people respond to. They spent the next 2 hours preparing. Sarah asked questions, Ryan answered them, and she helped him tighten his responses into something that didn't ramble or sound defensive. They practiced his opening statement until he could deliver it without notes, until it felt natural instead of rehearsed. At 11:30, Sarah's phone buzzed. She glanced at it and her eyebrows went up. Interesting. What? Ava Sterling just announced she's holding a press conference at 1 p.m. today. Ryan felt something cold settle in his stomach. She's countering me. She's trying to, but she's going second, which means she's reactive. You set the narrative, she responds to it. That's actually better for us. Doesn't feel better. Trust me. Sarah stood and grabbed her jacket. Time to go. The venue's downtown. We rented a conference room at the Meridian Hotel. Thought the location was appropriate. The Meridian Hotel was 3 blocks from the cafe where everything had started. When Ryan walked into the conference room, he found it packed with reporters, cameras, and people he didn't recognize but who all seemed to know exactly who he was. The room went quiet when he entered, a wave of attention that felt physical. Sarah guided him to a small podium at the front of the room. A microphone stood waiting. Behind it, a simple blue backdrop with no logos or slogans, just neutral space that wouldn't distract from whatever he was about to say. Ryan's hands were sweating. He wiped them on his jeans, the only pair he owned that didn't have paint stains, and stepped up to the microphone. The cameras started flashing immediately. Sarah stood to the side, nodding slightly. You've got this. Ryan cleared his throat. Thank you all for coming. My name is Ryan Carter. 2 days ago, I was having coffee at a cafe when Ava Sterling, the CEO of Sterling Industries, demanded I give up my seat. When I declined, she threw hot coffee on me and physically attacked me. I defended myself using restraint and without causing her harm. That incident was recorded and has since been viewed millions of times. He paused, letting the room absorb it. Every reporter was writing or recording. The cameras never blinked. I'm not here to vilify Ms. Sterling or to seek attention. I'm here because in the past 48 hours, I've been offered money to stay silent, had lawyers show up at my home at 6:30 in the morning, and received a call from Child Protective Services following an anonymous tip questioning my fitness as a father. I don't know who made that call, but the timing is convenient. Someone in the back coughed. Otherwise, silence. I have a 6-year-old daughter. She's the most important person in my life. Everything I do is to give her a stable, safe home where she can grow up, knowing that integrity matters more than wealth, that character matters more than status, and that standing up for yourself doesn't make you a hero. It just makes you human. Ryan gripped the edges of the podium. I work construction. I'm a single father. I served in the Marines. None of that makes me special. What happened at that cafe could have happened to anyone. The only difference is that it was filmed, and that the person who attacked me happened to be powerful enough to think she wouldn't face consequences. He looked directly at the cameras. I won't be intimidated. I won't be bought. And I won't be silent while someone tries to weaponize institutions designed to protect children in order to protect their own reputation. I'm cooperating with CPS because I have nothing to hide. My home is appropriate, my daughter is loved and cared for, and I'm confident that will be clear to anyone who looks. Ryan took a breath. I don't want Ava Sterling's money. I don't want her apology delivered through lawyers. If she's truly sorry for what she did, she can say so publicly, honestly, and without conditions. Until then, I'm going to live my life, raise my daughter, and trust that the truth matters more than power. He stepped back from the microphone. I'll take a few questions now. Every hand in the room shot up. Sarah pointed to a woman in the front row. Kelly Robbins, Channel 7. Mr. Carter, you mentioned serving in the Marines. Is that where you learned the restraint techniques we saw in the video? Yes. I served 2 tours and received training in hand-to-hand combat and detainee control. The goal is always to de-escalate and use the minimum force necessary. That's what I did. Another reporter, Tom Chen, Tribune. Do you plan to sue Sterling Industries or Ms. Sterling personally? Right now, I'm focused on my daughter and my life. Legal action isn't off the table, but it's not my priority. Andrea Walsh, Good Morning America. Good morning. You said you won't be bought. Does that mean you've refused settlement offers? Yes, multiple offers, each larger than the last. I'm not interested in money that comes with a gag order attached. A man in the back. David Park, Financial Times. Sterling Industries stock has dropped nearly 5% since the video went viral. Do you feel responsible for that? I feel responsible for defending myself. How the market reacts to someone's behavior isn't my concern. Kelly Robbins, again. What do you want people to take away from this situation? Ryan thought about that. That regular people matter. That you don't have to accept being treated badly just because someone has more money or status than you. And that defending yourself with dignity is always the right choice. Sarah stepped forward. We have time for 2 more questions. A younger reporter, nervous. Sam Rivera, Online Media. Your daughter, how is she handling all of this attention? She's 6. She knows something happened, but I'm keeping her as shielded from this as possible. That's why I'm asking all of you to respect our privacy. Film me, write about me, but leave my daughter out of it. She didn't choose this. Last question. A woman Ryan recognized from cable news, Jennifer Moss, CNN. What would you say to Ava Sterling if she were in this room right now? 18%. Ryan looked at the cameras again, knowing that somewhere she was watching. I'd say that power doesn't excuse cruelty, that money doesn't buy the right to hurt people without consequences, and that if she wants to move forward from this, she needs to take real accountability, not the kind that's managed by lawyers and PR teams, but the kind that acknowledges she was wrong and commits to doing better. Sarah touched his arm gently. That's all the time we have. Thank you. The reporters erupted with more questions, but Sarah steered Ryan toward a side door. They slipped through and found themselves in a service hallway, the sounds of the press conference muffled behind them. You did good, Sarah said. Really good. Ryan's heart was hammering. I feel like I'm going to throw up. That's normal. The adrenaline will fade. She checked her phone. We've got about an hour before Sterling's press conference. Want to watch? Do I have a choice? Not really. Know your enemy and all that. They went back to Sarah's office and pulled up a live stream on her computer. At exactly 1 p.m., Ava Sterling appeared at a podium in what looked like the executive conference room at Sterling Industries headquarters. She wore a navy suit and an expression of carefully managed contrition. Behind her stood Marcus Chen and several other people Ryan didn't recognize, probably more lawyers, more handlers, more people whose job was to make this go away. Ava's voice was steady when she spoke. Thank you for being here. I'm Ava Sterling, and I want to address the incident that occurred 2 days ago at Meridian Cafe. She paused, looking down at notes on the podium. I behaved unacceptably. I was under extreme stress due to personal circumstances I won't detail here, but that's not an excuse. I treated Mr. Ryan Carter with disrespect and aggression. I was wrong, and I'm deeply sorry. Ryan watched her face. She looked sincere, but there was something rehearsed about it, something that didn't quite reach her eyes. I've spent the past 2 days reflecting on my actions and their impact, Ava continued. I recognize that my behavior was a result of unchecked privilege and a failure to manage my own emotional state. I'm committed to doing better. To that end, I'm announcing several steps I'm taking personally and professionally. She looked up from her notes. First, I'm entering a program focused on anger management and emotional regulation. Second, I'm establishing a workplace culture review committee at Sterling Industries to ensure we're fostering an environment of respect and accountability at every level. Third, I'm personally donating $5 million to organizations that support families affected by workplace stress and mental health challenges. Sarah snorted. She's trying to reframe assault as a mental health issue. Fourth, Ava said, I want to apologize directly to Mr. Carter and his daughter. I never intended for my actions to affect his family, and I'm horrified by the subsequent harassment he's faced. To be clear, I did not authorize any contact with Child Protective Services or any other intimidation tactics. If anyone associated with Sterling Industries engaged in such behavior, they acted without my knowledge or consent, and they will be held accountable. Mugchets. Ryan leaned back in his chair. She's covering her ass. Obviously, but she's doing it well. This is classic crisis management. Take responsibility for the main offense. Distance yourself from the collateral damage. Announce concrete steps that sound meaningful, but don't actually change anything structural. Ava wasn't done. I've seen Mr. Carter's press conference. He said that if I wanted to move forward, I needed to take real accountability. He's right. So I'm saying this directly, without lawyers drafting my words. I'm sorry, Ryan. You didn't deserve how I treated you. You responded with more grace and restraint than I showed, and I respect that. I hope you can accept my apology, not for the cameras, but because it's genuine. Buzz I asamatis ishye pots. She took a breath. I'm also withdrawing all settlement offers and any legal action against Mr. Carter. He shouldn't have to fight to defend himself. He already did that, and he did it better than I'm doing now. The press conference continued with questions, but Ryan stopped paying attention. He was replaying her words, trying to figure out what was real and what was performance. Sarah closed the laptop. Well, that was unexpected. Was it? The part where she threw her own people under the bus about the CPS call? Yeah, that's bold. Either she's genuinely horrified by what happened, or she's worried about legal exposure and cutting ties with anyone who went too far. Or both. Or both. Sarah drummed her fingers on the desk. The question is, what do you do now? What do you mean? She apologized publicly. She withdrew settlement offers. She's taking steps that look substantive. Public opinion is going to shift in her favor if you keep fighting. You might look vindictive. Ryan thought about the lawyers at his door, about the fear he'd felt when CPS called, about Mia asking if he was stressed or worried. I don't care how it looks, and he said, I care what's true. And what's true? That she's only sorry because she got caught. That if those cameras hadn't been there, I'd just be some guy she humiliated and forgot about. That this apology is damage control, not accountability. Sarah studied him. You might be right, but proving that is a lot harder than accepting an apology and moving on. I'm not here to make things easy for her. No, but you're also not here to make things harder for yourself. Think about your daughter, Ryan. Think about what the next month looks like if you keep this going. More press conferences, more lawyers, more scrutiny. Is that what you want for her? Ryan stood and walked to the window. 3 floors below, people moved through the street, going about their lives, unaware and unburdened by viral videos and press conferences. What I want, he said quietly, is for my daughter to grow up seeing that you don't let people walk over you just because it's easier. I want her to know that standing up for yourself is worth the discomfort, even if it costs you, especially if it costs me, because the lesson isn't free otherwise. Sarah was quiet for a moment. Then she said, Okay, then we keep going, but we do it smart. No more reactive press conferences. We build a case for why her apology isn't enough, why the pattern of behavior matters more than one public statement, and we do it without looking petty. How? Let the facts speak. The harassment complaint settled with NDAs, the discrimination lawsuit, the toxic workplace reports, all of it's public record, just buried. We bring it to the surface and show that this isn't about one bad day. It's about someone who's used power to avoid accountability for years. Ryan turned from the window. That feels like I'm attacking her. You're contextualizing her apology. There's a difference. His phone buzzed. Text from Derek. Dude, you were on CNN. Martinez says take all the time you need. Also, you owe me lunch for handling reporters all morning. Ryan smiled slightly and texted back. Pizza. Friday. Another text came through. Unknown number. Mr. Carter, this is Diane Martinez from CPS. Just confirming our appointment Friday at 4 p.m. Looking forward to meeting you and your daughter. The smile faded. Friday. 2 days away. 2 days to make sure his apartment looked appropriate, that he had the right food in the fridge, that every detail of his life would pass inspection by someone looking for reasons to find him unfit. What is it? Sarah asked. CPS visit on Friday. You'll be fine, just be yourself. Show them your home, introduce them to Mia, answer their questions honestly. They're not looking to take your kid away. They're checking a box so they can close the case. And if Sterling's people got to them somehow, if they're already biased against me, then we document it and file complaints. But Ryan, you need to trust the process. Most social workers are decent people trying to protect kids. They'll see what everyone else sees, a good father doing his best. Ryan wanted to believe that. He really did. His phone rang. He looked at the screen. Jessica Carter, his ex-wife. "I need to take this," he said. Sarah nodded and stepped out of the office, closing the door behind her. Ryan answered, "Jessica, what the hell are you doing?" Her voice was sharp, familiar in its irritation. "I've had 3 reporters call me asking about our marriage, about Mia, about whether you were violent at home." "I was never violent at home." "I know that. But they're digging, Ryan. They want dirt, and they're going to keep calling until they get something. So don't give them anything." "Don't?" "I'm not. But this is affecting me too. My boyfriend's parents saw the video. They asked if Mia was safe with you." Ryan closed his eyes. "What did you tell them?" "I told them you're a good father, because you are. But this situation, you need to make it go away. I'm trying. By holding press conferences? By turning yourself into a public figure?" "That's not making it go away, Ryan. That's making it worse." "She attacked me, Jess. I defended myself. I'm not apologizing for that. I'm not asking you to apologize. I'm asking you to think about Mia, about what it's going to be like for her when kids at school start recognizing her dad from TV, about what happens when she's old enough to Google you and finds all of this. She'll find the truth, that her dad stood up for himself." Jessica laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You always did this, made everything about principles instead of practicality. Sometimes the smart thing is to take the money, sign the NDA, and move on with your life. And teach Mia that integrity is negotiable? Teach her that survival is more important than pride. It's not pride, Jess. It's self-respect." She sighed. "I don't want to fight with you. I just want you to be careful. For Mia's sake, I am being careful." "Are you?" "Because CPS called me yesterday asking about our divorce, about whether there was domestic violence, about whether I had concerns about your parenting. That doesn't sound careful. That sounds like you've pissed off someone powerful enough to make your life hell." Ryan's jaw tightened. "What did you tell them?" "The truth. That our marriage ended because we wanted different things. That you've never been anything but a good father. That Mia is lucky to have you. But Ryan, if they're calling me..." "They're looking for ammunition. Be ready for that." "I am ready." "I hope so. Because if this gets ugly and Mia gets caught in the crossfire, I won't forgive you." "Neither will I." Jessica was quiet for a moment, then softer. "I mean it. Be careful." She hung up. Ryan stood there holding the phone, thinking about his daughter, about all the ways this could go wrong, about whether he was being brave or just stubborn. Sarah came back in. "Everything okay?" My ex-wife, she's worried about Mia." "That's reasonable." "Is it? Or is it just another way of saying I should shut up and take the money?" "Both things can be true. She can be worried about Mia and also be wrong about what's best for her." Sarah sat back down at her desk. "But you need to hear this, Ryan. The more public this gets, the more your life becomes public. That includes Mia, whether you want it to or not. People will recognize her. Other kids will know who her dad is. That's not necessarily bad, but it's real." "So what do I do?" "You decide what you can live with. If you can live with letting this go, take the apology. Accept that Ava Sterling said the right words even if she doesn't mean them, and move on. Focus on your daughter, your job, your life. And if I can't live with that, then you keep fighting, but you do it knowing the cost." Ryan sat down heavily. "When I was in Afghanistan, we had this lieutenant who used to say that the only easy day was yesterday. I never really understood it until now." "What does it mean? That today's always going to be hard? That you can't wait for things to get easier? You just have to be harder than they are?" Sarah smiled slightly. "Your lieutenant sounds like someone I'd like. He got killed by an IED 2 months before we rotated home." The smile faded. "I'm sorry." "Me too." Ryan stood. "I should go. I need to pick up Mia in an hour." Boy o orientate pon. Think about what we discussed. You don't have to decide today. "Yeah, I do. Because if I don't decide, someone else will decide for me. That's how people like Ava Sterling win. They wait for you to get tired and give up. And you're not going to get tired? Ryan thought about Mia asking if he was stressed or worried, about the galaxy projector in her room, about the way her whole face lit up when he picked her up from school. I'm already tired, he said, but I'm not giving up. He left Sarah's office and drove to Mia's school, arriving 20 minutes early. He parked and watched other parents arriving, checking their phones, chatting with each other, existing in their uncomplicated lives. His phone buzzed, text from a number he didn't recognize. You did well today. Thank you for speaking the truth. A friend. Another text, different number. Your press conference was everything. Ava Sterling can't buy her way out of this one. Keep fighting. Another. I've been following your story. As someone who was bullied by a boss with power, thank you for standing up. It matters. Ryan read through them. Dozens of messages from strangers who'd seen themselves in his situation, who'd felt powerless against people who treated them like obstacles instead of human beings. And he realized that this wasn't just about him anymore. Wasn't just about coffee in a cafe or one bad interaction with one terrible person. It had become something bigger, whether he wanted it to or not. The school doors opened, kids streamed out. Mia appeared, her backpack bouncing, her smile immediate when she saw his truck. She climbed in and buckled herself. Daddy, guess what? What? Miss Chen said we're doing a project about people we admire, and I picked you. Ryan's throat went tight. Yeah? Yeah, I told her you're brave and kind and you make the best dinosaur pancakes in the world. Ryan reached back and squeezed her hand. I love you, baby.
I love you too. Can we get ice cream? It's Tuesday. So ice cream is a weekend thing, but you're on TV. That's special. Ryan laughed despite everything.
How do you know I'm on TV? Madison's mom told her mom, and her mom told Madison, and Madison told me. She said you're famous for being nice when someone was mean to you. Ryan pulled out of the parking lot. That's pretty accurate, actually. So can we get ice cream? Yeah, we can get ice cream. They drove to the shop near their apartment, the one that had been there for 30 years and served portions big enough to share. Mia ordered mint chocolate chip. Ryan got vanilla because he was boring and okay with it. They sat at a small table by the window and Mia swung her legs while she ate, green ice cream collecting at the corners of her mouth. Daddy, are you going to be on TV again? I don't know. Maybe?
Will I be on TV? No, never. I'll make sure of that. But what if I want to be on TV? Then you can decide that when you're older. Right now,
you're just a kid who gets to eat ice cream and think about butterflies. Mia considered this. Okay, that's fair. They finished their ice cream and Ryan drove them home. While Mia did her homework at the kitchen table, Ryan cleaned the apartment with a focus he usually reserved for precision carpentry. He scrubbed the bathroom until it gleamed, organized the kitchen cabinets, vacuumed every surface, made sure everything looked exactly how a good father's apartment should look. Because in 2 days, someone was coming to judge whether he deserved to keep his daughter. And no matter what happened with Ava Sterling, no matter what the press said or how many times his press conference was played on cable news, that was the thing that actually mattered. Everything else was just noise. Friday arrived with the weight of a verdict waiting to be delivered. Ryan cleaned the apartment for the 3rd time that morning, moving through rooms he'd already scrubbed until they gleamed, checking and rechecking that everything looked appropriate for a social worker's inspection. The fridge was stocked with healthy food, fruits, vegetables, milk that wouldn't expire for another week. Mia's room was organized, but not unnaturally so. Her drawings still taped to the walls, her stuffed animals arranged in the careful chaos that suggested a child actually lived there. At 3:15, he picked Mia up from school. She was unusually quiet in the truck, swinging her legs and looking out the window. You okay, baby? Ryan asked. Madison said a lady is coming to our house to ask questions. Ryan's hands tightened on the steering wheel. Madison needs to mind her own business. Is it true? Yeah, it's true. A social worker's coming to visit, but it's nothing to worry about. She just wants to make sure you're happy and safe. Am I happy and safe? What do you think? Mia considered this seriously. I'm happy, and I feel safe. Except sometimes when there's thunder, but you let me sleep in your room then, so that's okay. Then that's what you tell her if she asks. Okay. Mia went back to looking out the window. Daddy? Yeah? Are you in trouble? The question hit harder than Ryan expected. No, baby, I'm not in trouble. Sometimes grown-ups have to prove they're doing a good job, even when they already know they are. That's all this is.
That seems silly.
It is silly, but we're going to be polite and answer her questions anyway, okay? Okay. They got home at 3:45. Ryan made Mia a snack, apple slices with peanut butter arranged on a plate that didn't have any chips or cracks, and tried not to watch the clock. At 3:58, he heard footsteps in the hallway. The knock came at exactly 4 p.m. Ryan opened the door to find Diane Martinez standing there with a tablet and a kind smile. She was younger than she'd sounded on the phone, maybe early 40s, wearing practical clothes and carrying herself with the calm competence of someone who'd done this hundreds of times. "Mr. Carter?" she said, extending her hand. "Thank you for having me." "Ms. Martinez, come in." "But I'm—" Diane stepped inside and looked around with the practiced eye of someone trained to notice details. Ryan tried to see the apartment through her perspective, small but clean, modest furniture but well-maintained, evidence of a child's presence without chaos or neglect. "This is nice," Diane said. "How long have you lived here?" 3 years, since my daughter was 3. "And you're renting?" "Yeah, the landlord's good about repairs. It's a decent building." Mia appeared from the kitchen, peanut butter on her chin. "Are you the question lady?" Diane smiled. "I am. You must be Mia. I like your backpack. Is that a dolphin?" "Yeah. Dolphins are my favorite because they're smart and they can talk to each other underwater." "That's very cool. Can I talk to you for a few minutes? Just you and me?" Mia looked at Ryan. He nodded. "It's okay, baby. Miss Martinez just wants to get to know you." Diane and Mia went into Mia's room. Ryan stood in the hallway, close enough to hear murmured conversation, but not close enough to make out words. He forced himself to sit on the couch, to not hover like a helicopter parent, to trust that his daughter would tell the truth and that the truth would be enough. 15 minutes felt like an hour. When they emerged, Mia was chattering about her dolphin project from school. Diane was nodding, asking follow-up questions, treating Mia like a person whose opinions mattered. Ryan felt something unclench in his chest. "Mr. Carter, can I see the rest of the apartment, Diane asked. "Of course." He showed her everything: the bathroom with its clean towels and well-stocked medicine cabinet, the kitchen with food in the cupboards and cleaning supplies stored safely out of Mia's reach, his own bedroom with the punching bag in the corner and the stack of books on the nightstand. Diane took notes on her tablet, asked questions about his work schedule, about childcare arrangements when he was on site, about Mia's school performance and social development. "Mia mentioned you help her with homework every night," Diane said. "Yeah, math and reading mostly. Sometimes science projects. And she said you make dinosaur pancakes on special mornings." Ryan smiled slightly. "It's the only shape I can do. The Stegosaurus usually looks more like a blob with spikes. She thinks they're perfect." Diane sat down at the kitchen table and gestured for Ryan to join her. "Mr. Carter, I'm going to be direct with you. I've reviewed the report that triggered this investigation. It alleged you had demonstrated violent behavior in front of your daughter, and that you were using your recent notoriety to exploit her for attention." Ryan felt anger spike but kept his voice level. "And what did you find?" "I found a well-adjusted 6-year-old who clearly adores her father. I found a clean, safe home with appropriate food and accommodations. I found a father who works full-time, manages childcare responsibly, and is actively involved in his daughter's education and well-being." Diane met his eyes. "I found nothing that supports the allegations in the report." "So you're closing the case?" "I'm recommending the case be closed, yes, but I want to ask you something off the record." "Okay. Do you have any idea who filed this report?" Ryan chose his words carefully. "I have suspicions, but no proof." "The timing is interesting. The report was filed the day after you held your first press conference. The person who called described you as increasingly unstable and seeking attention at the expense of his child's welfare. That's not the language of a concerned neighbor. That's the language of someone with an agenda." "What are you saying?" Diane set down her tablet. "I'm saying that CPS is sometimes weaponized by people who want to hurt someone else. It's a terrible misuse of a system designed to protect children. And in cases like yours, where there's clearly no merit to the allegations, it wastes resources that could be used helping kids who actually need intervention. Can you trace who made the call? It was anonymous, but the call came from a downtown office building, not a residential area. Make of that what you will. Diane stood. I'll submit my report on Monday. You should receive official notification that the case is closed within a week. If you have any questions or concerns, here's my card. Ryan took the card. Thank you for being fair.
I'm just doing my job. You're doing yours, being a good father. Keep it up, Mr. Carter. Mia's lucky to have you.
After Diane left, Ryan sat on the couch and let the relief wash over him. Mia climbed up next to him, nestling under his arm. Did I do good? She asked. You did perfect. The question lady was nice. She asked about my favorite things and if I ever felt scared at home. I told her only during thunder and that you always make it better. Well, what else did she ask? If you ever yelled at me or hit me? I said no, you never do that. You just use your disappointed voice when I don't clean my room, and that's worse than yelling anyway. Ryan laughed despite himself. My disappointed voice, huh? It's very effective. Mia looked up at him. Are we okay now? Is everything normal again? Ryan kissed the top of her head. Yeah, baby, everything's okay. Yes. That evening, after Mia was asleep, Ryan sat in his living room and thought about Diane's words. The call had come from a downtown office building. Sterling Industries was in a downtown office building. The timing was too convenient to be coincidence. He pulled out his phone and stared at Ava Sterling's last message. Thank you for showing me who I could be instead of who I was. His fingers hovered over the keyboard. Then he typed, Did you know your people called CPS on me? The response came within minutes. What? No. When? Ryan. 3 days ago. Anonymous report claiming I was violent and exploiting my daughter. Social worker just left. Case is being closed because there was nothing to find. A longer pause this time. Then, I swear I didn't know. I've been away, not communicating with the company, but I'll find out who did it, Ryan. Don't bother. It doesn't matter anymore. Ava, it matters to me. If someone at my company did this, they crossed a line I never authorized. Ryan, your company, your responsibility. You created a culture where people thought this was acceptable. Another pause. Then, you're right. I did. I'm sorry. Ryan set down his phone. The apology felt hollow, but what else could she say? Sorry didn't undo the stress, didn't erase the fear he'd felt about losing his daughter, didn't compensate for the weaponization of a system designed to protect children. His phone rang. Unknown number. Ryan almost didn't answer, then decided he was tired of hiding. Yeah? Mr. Carter, this is Marcus Chen, Ava Sterling's assistant. Former assistant, probably, given everything that had happened. I'm calling because I need to tell you something, and I need you to understand it's not coming from Miss Sterling. She doesn't know I'm making this call. I'm listening. The CPS report. It was me. I made the call. Ryan went very still. Why? Because I was following orders. Not Miss Sterling's orders. She was already stepping back by then. But David Brennan, the lead attorney, he told me to do it. He said we needed to pressure you, make you understand that fighting back had consequences. I argued with him, told him it was wrong, but he said if I didn't do it, he'd find someone who would. And you did it anyway. I did, and I've regretted it every day since. Marcus's voice was shaking. I'm calling to apologize and to tell you that I've resigned from Sterling Industries. I'm also prepared to testify. If you want to pursue legal action about the intimidation tactics the company used against you. Ryan sat down heavily. You're willing to testify against your own company? It's not my company anymore. And what I did, was wrong. I can't change it, but I can at least be honest about it. Why now? Why not a week ago, when it would have actually helped? Because a week ago, I was still hoping I could salvage my career. But I watched Ms. Sterling's press conference. I watched her take accountability for things I knew her lawyers had done without her knowledge. And I realized I was choosing my career over my integrity. I don't want to be that person anymore. But Ryan didn't know what to say. This man had weaponized CPS against him, had knowingly traumatized a 6-year-old girl to score points in a corporate battle, and now he wanted absolution. I don't forgive you, Ryan said finally. What you did was cruel and cowardly, but I appreciate you telling me the truth. That's more than I deserve. Marcus took a breath. For what it's worth, Ms. Sterling really didn't know. When she found out, I told her about an hour ago, she was horrified. She's terminating her relationship with the law firm and reporting Brennan to the Bar Association. Good. He deserves it. Yes, he does. I probably do too. Marcus paused. I know you have no reason to believe me, but I am sorry, truly. I hope you and your daughter can move past this. The call ended. Ryan sat there in the dark apartment processing the conversation. Marcus Chen had made the call. David Brennan had ordered it. Ava Sterling hadn't known, but had created the environment where it could happen. Everyone was responsible. Everyone was complicit. The only question was whether any of them would actually change. His phone buzzed. Text from Ava. Marcus just told me what happened. I'm sick about it. I fired Brennan's firm and I'm making a statement tomorrow about the tactics they used without my authorization. I know that doesn't fix anything, but you deserve to know. Ryan typed, It doesn't fix anything, but it's a start. He meant it. Not because he'd forgiven her, forgiveness required time and proof, but because he recognized that she was trying. Imperfectly, inconsistently, but trying nonetheless. The next morning, Ava Sterling held what would become her most famous press conference. No lawyers, no prepared statements, just her standing at a podium looking exhausted and raw. I want to address tactics that were used against Ryan Carter without my knowledge or consent, she said. Specifically, someone associated with my legal team made a false report to Child Protective Services, alleging that Mr. Carter was an unfit parent. This was done to intimidate him into silence. It was despicable. It was illegal, and it will not go unpunished. The cameras flashed. Reporters shouted questions. Ava ignored them all. I take responsibility for creating an environment where people thought this was acceptable behavior. I've spent my career surrounding myself with people who would do anything to win, who saw human beings as obstacles to overcome rather than people deserving of dignity. That has to change. She paused, gripping the podium. I'm announcing today that I'm stepping down as CEO of Sterling Industries, effective immediately. I'm also dissolving my relationship with the law firm that employed these tactics and reporting the attorneys involved to the appropriate oversight bodies. These are not symbolic gestures. These are necessary consequences of leadership that prioritized victory over ethics. Ryan watched the press conference from his truck, parked outside the job site where he'd returned to work that morning. Derek sat in the passenger seat, also watching on his phone. She's really doing it, Derek said. She's actually quitting. Yeah. That's huge. That's like unprecedented. Ryan didn't respond. He was watching Ava's face, looking for signs of performance, for the calculated expression of someone playing a role. But all he saw was someone who looked beaten down and weirdly relieved at the same time. To Ryan Carter, Ava continued, I want to say directly, I failed you, not just in that cafe, but in every day since when I allowed people working on my behalf to harass you, intimidate you, and weaponize institutions against you. You asked me to take real accountability. This is me trying to do that. She stepped away from the podium without taking questions. The internet exploded. Within hours, the press conference had been viewed millions of times. The narrative shifted again, this time to whether Ava Sterling's resignation was genuine accountability or performative damage control. Think pieces appeared debating whether powerful people could truly change or whether this was just another wealthy person buying their way out of consequences with a different currency. Ryan's phone wouldn't stop ringing. More interview requests, more talk show invitations, more people wanting him to weigh in on whether Ava's gesture was enough. He ignored all of it and went to work. The warehouse renovation was coming along. Ryan spent the day running conduit for electrical, the repetitive precision of the work, soothing after the chaos of the past week. Derek worked alongside him, mercifully not asking about the press conference or the viral videos or any of it. At lunch, they sat on the tailgate of Derek's truck eating sandwiches from the deli down the block. So what are you going to do? Derek asked. About what? About all of it. Sterling resigning, the CPS thing, the fact that you're basically a folk hero now. Ryan took a bite of his sandwich. I'm going to finish this job, pick up my daughter, and go home. Same as always. You're really not going to capitalize on this? You could probably get a book deal, speaking fees, all kinds of opportunities. To talk about what? Getting coffee thrown on me, defending myself, that's not a career, Derek. That's just something that happened. It's something that happened to mean something to a lot of people. I know. And I'm glad it helped people feel like standing up for themselves is possible. But I'm not a symbol. I'm just a guy. Derek crumpled up his sandwich wrapper. You know what I think? I'm sure you're going to tell me. I think you're afraid. Ryan looked at him. Of what? Of being more than just a guy. Of acknowledging that what you did actually mattered. That you could use this platform to keep mattering. You're hiding behind normalcy because accepting that you're someone people look up to would mean accepting responsibility for that. The words hit harder than Ryan wanted to admit. I have a 6-year-old daughter who needs stability, not a father who's off giving speeches about integrity. Mia also needs to see that her father's courage inspired people, that standing up for yourself can create ripples that help others. You're teaching her to be small when you could be teaching her to be significant. I'm teaching her to be grounded. There's a difference. Is there? Or are you just scared of what happens if you let yourself want more? Ryan didn't have an answer for that. That evening, after dinner with Mia and the usual bedtime routine, Ryan sat at his kitchen table with his laptop and started reading the messages that had accumulated over the past week. Hundreds of them, from people whose stories echoed his own. A woman who'd been harassed by her boss for years and had finally reported him after watching Ryan's press conference. A man who'd stood up to a corrupt manager and been fired for it, but had found new employment with a company that valued integrity. A teenager who'd been bullied at school and had used Ryan's example to report it to administrators instead of suffering in silence. Story after story of people finding courage they didn't know they had, inspired by watching someone refuse to back down. Ryan closed the laptop and went to check on Mia. She was asleep, her dolphin-stuffed animal clutched to her chest, her breathing soft and even. He stood in the doorway watching her the way he did most nights, grateful for this small human who depended on him to get things right. Derek's words kept circling in his head. You're hiding behind normalcy because accepting that you're someone people look up to would mean accepting responsibility for that. Maybe he was hiding. Maybe returning to normal was just another form of avoidance, a way to pretend the past 2 weeks hadn't fundamentally changed something about his relationship with the world. But what was the alternative? Becoming a professional victim? A motivational speaker? Someone whose entire identity revolved around one incident in a cafe? His phone buzzed. Text from Sarah Mitchell. Good morning, America is still interested. They're willing to let you set all the terms. Questions submitted in advance, live rather than taped, so they can't edit you, full editorial control. Think about it. Ryan stared at the message. Then he typed, what would I even say? Sarah, the truth. Your story, your terms, your voice. You've spent 2 weeks reacting to other people's narratives. This would be you creating your own. Ryan, let me think about it. Sarah, take your time. But Ryan? Derek's right. You're afraid of being significant. And I get it, significance is scary. But running from it doesn't make you humble. It just makes you small. Ryan set down his phone. Small. He'd spent his entire adult life trying to be small. Small enough to not attract attention in combat zones. Small enough to not make waves during his marriage. Small enough to just exist quietly after the divorce, raising his daughter, working his job, dreaming about a novel he might never finish. And then Ava Sterling had thrown coffee at him. And suddenly small wasn't an option anymore. The question was whether he'd fight to get back to small, or accept that maybe, for a moment at least, he needed to be bigger. He picked up his phone and called Sarah. I'll do it, he said when she answered. The interview? But I have conditions. Name them. No questions about my daughter beyond acknowledging she exists. No speculation about my marriage or ex-wife. And I want to talk about the people who've reached out to me, the ones who found courage through this. Make it about them, not me. Done. I'll set it up. After they hung up, Ryan sat in the quiet apartment and wondered what he'd just agreed to. National television. Millions of viewers. His story told on his terms, but also frozen in amber, available forever for people to analyze and critique and use as evidence for whatever point they wanted to make. But maybe that was the cost of standing up. Maybe you didn't get to control how people used your example. You just had to trust that telling the truth, consistently and honestly, would matter more than whatever spin people put on it afterward. Ryan walked to his bedroom and looked at the punching bag hanging in the corner. He'd bought it after the divorce, when the anger and frustration of failed marriage needed somewhere to go besides his daughter's awareness. He'd hit it thousands of times, working through deployment memories and custody negotiations and the slow, hard work of rebuilding a life from pieces. Now it hung there as a reminder that some fights you won by not fighting, and some you won by refusing to stop. He wrapped his hands and started working the bag. Not with anger this time, but with focus. Each punch deliberate, controlled, the physical expression of a decision to stop running from significance and start accepting it. Derek was right. Sarah was right. He'd been hiding, but not anymore. The interview was scheduled for the following week. In the meantime, Ryan went back to his life with a new understanding that normal wasn't coming back, that the cafe incident had permanently shifted something, and that pretending otherwise was just another form of cowardice. He worked construction during the day, picked up Mia from school, made dinner, helped with homework. But in the quiet moments, he started preparing for the interview, thinking through what he wanted to say, how he wanted to frame not just his story, but the stories of everyone who'd reached out to him. Because Derek had been right about something else too. This wasn't just about him anymore. It was about what his refusal to back down had given permission for others to do the same, and that was worth being significant for. Even if it scared him. Especially because it scared him. Because courage, he was learning, wasn't the absence of fear. It was deciding that what you were afraid of mattered less than what you were fighting for. And what he was fighting for, integrity, accountability, the idea that regular people deserve dignity, that was worth every uncomfortable moment that came with being someone people looked up to. Ryan finished his workout, unwrapped his hands, and went to his laptop. He opened the novel he'd been writing and read through the last chapter. Then he started typing, the words flowing easier than they had in weeks. The story finally clear, because he knew how it ended now. Not with victory or defeat, but with someone choosing to be brave even when small would have been easier, just like he was choosing now. The interview went viral within 3 hours. Ryan sat in Sarah's office watching the view count climb, 2 million, 3 million, 5 million, while the attorney paced behind her desk, phone pressed to her ear, fielding calls from news organizations that suddenly wanted follow-up interviews, longer segments, documentary deals. No, Sarah said into the phone for the third time. Mr. Carter isn't interested in a book deal. Yes, I understand the advance would be substantial. The answer is still no. She hung up and looked at Ryan. Netflix wants to do a limited series. About what? A guy getting coffee thrown on him? About the aftermath. The David and Goliath angle. Regular person versus billionaire CEO. Sarah sat down. They're offering real money, Ryan. Enough to change your life. My life's already changed. I don't need Netflix documenting it. Fair enough. Sarah's phone rang again. She silenced it. The interview was good. You came across as genuine, thoughtful, human. That's what people respond to. Ryan had done the interview 2 days after the joint press conference with a journalist from a major publication known for long-form profiles. They'd talked for 3 hours about his childhood, his time in the Marines, his marriage and divorce, his relationship with Mia. The journalist had asked hard questions, and Ryan had answered them honestly, including the parts that made him look imperfect. The resulting article was titled, "The Man Who Said No, Ryan Carter and the Cost of Dignity." It was fair, balanced. It portrayed him as someone trying to do the right thing while acknowledging his flaws, his stubbornness, his tendency to see things in black and white, his struggle with asking for help. It also dug into Ava Sterling's history, connecting the cafe incident to a pattern of behavior that Sterling Industries had spent years trying to bury under settlements and NDAs. Public opinion had shifted dramatically. The narrative wasn't about one bad day anymore. It was about accountability, about whether powerful people could buy their way out of consequences, about what real change looked like versus performative apologies. Sterling Industries' stock had dropped another 4%. 3 board members had quietly resigned. 2 major investors had issued statements expressing concern about the company's leadership and culture. And Ava Sterling had gone silent. No more press conferences, no more public statements, just a brief announcement that she was taking a temporary leave of absence to focus on personal development and would be replaced by an interim CEO while she did so. She's in hiding, Sarah said, reading something on her laptop. Sources close to Sterling Industries say she's at a private facility in Vermont. Could be the anger management program she mentioned. Could be PR spin while her team regroups. Does it matter? It matters if you want to keep pushing. Right now, you've won the public narrative. Sterling's reputation is damaged, her company is in crisis, and you're being held up as an example of principled resistance. The question is whether that's enough for you. Ryan thought about the CPS visit that had happened Friday afternoon. Diane Martinez had arrived exactly on time, spent 90 minutes touring the apartment, talking with Mia, reviewing Ryan's work schedule and childcare arrangements. She'd been professional, thorough, and at the end had told Ryan that she saw no concerns and would be recommending the case be closed. "Your daughter is clearly loved and well cared for," she'd said. "Whoever called this in wasted everyone's time." That had been the moment Ryan finally exhaled. Everything else, the press conferences, the interviews, the public battle, he could handle. But the threat to his relationship with Mia had been the line he couldn't let anyone cross. Now that threat was gone, and he was left wondering what he was still fighting for. "I want her to mean it," Ryan said. "The apology, the changes, all of it. I want her to actually become a better person, not just wait for this to blow over." "You can't control that." "I know, but I can make it harder for her to fake it." Sarah closed her laptop. "What are you thinking?" "I'm thinking that taking a leave of absence isn't accountability. It's hiding. And if she's serious about changing, she should do it publicly, not at some private facility in Vermont where nobody can verify what she's actually doing." "You want her to document her rehabilitation?" "I want her to show that she means it. Actions, not words." "That's asking a lot." "She asked a lot from me when she threw coffee in my face." Sarah smiled slightly. "Fair point. So what's the move?" Ryan pulled out his phone and looked at the last text message he'd received from Ava Sterling. It had come 3 days ago, just after the article was published. "I read the interview. You were right about everything. I'm sorry." He'd never responded. Now he typed, "If you're serious about changing, prove it. Do something that actually matters." He sent it before he could second-guess himself. The response came within 2 minutes. Like what? Ryan thought about all the stories that had emerged since the article. Former Sterling Industries employees sharing their experiences, people who'd been harassed or pushed out or forced to sign NDAs just to leave. He thought about the discrimination lawsuit still making its way through court, about the pattern of using money to silence problems instead of solving them. He typed, "Release everyone from their NDAs. Let them tell their stories without legal threats. Show people you're not just sorry you got caught." 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Then, "That would destroy my company." Ryan replied, "Then maybe your company deserves to be destroyed." No response came. Sarah had been reading over his shoulder. "You just asked her to commit corporate suicide. I asked her to choose between her company and her integrity. Those NDAs exist for a reason. Some of them probably protect legitimate trade secrets or proprietary information. And some of them protect her from being held accountable for how she treats people. I'm not disagreeing. I'm just saying you've put her in an impossible position." Ryan stood and walked to the window. "She put me in an impossible position when she attacked me. Difference is, I didn't have lawyers and money to make it go away. I had to stand there and take it and hope I didn't get hurt. So yeah, now it's her turn to be in an impossible position. See how she likes it." His phone buzzed. "Ava, I can't release all the NDAs, but I can release the ones related to workplace conduct and harassment. Would that be enough?" Ryan showed the message to Sarah. "Is this real?" "If she actually does it, yes, that would be huge. It would expose everything she's tried to keep hidden." Ryan typed, "Do it publicly. Make an announcement. Let people come forward without fear." Another pause. Then, "Okay, I'll do it. But I need to ask you something first." Ryan, "What?" "Ava, why do you care so much? You could have taken the money and moved on." "Why are you still pushing?" Ryan stared at the message, thinking about how to answer. Then he typed, "Because my daughter is watching. Because she needs to learn that some things matter more than being comfortable. Because if I let you buy your way out of this, I teach her that power always wins. And I won't do that to her. The response took longer this time. When it came, it was just 3 words. I understand now. 2 days later, Ava Sterling held another press conference. This time, there were no lawyers flanking her, no prepared statements, no carefully managed messaging. Just her, standing at a podium, looking like she hadn't slept in a week. I'm here to announce that Sterling Industries is releasing all employees and former employees from non-disclosure agreements related to workplace conduct, harassment, discrimination, or hostile work environment claims, she said, her voice steady but strained. Effective immediately, anyone who signs such an agreement is free to speak publicly about their experiences without fear of legal retaliation. The room erupted in questions. Ava raised her hand for silence. The room erupted in, I know this will be damaging to the company and to my reputation. I know stories will come out that make me look terrible. But Ryan Carter was right. If I'm serious about accountability, I have to be willing to face the truth about who I've been and what I've allowed. So I'm facing it. She paused, gripping the podium. I'm also stepping down permanently as CEO of Sterling Industries. Not taking a leave of absence, not staying on as a board member, stepping down completely. The company needs leadership that hasn't spent years creating problems it then had to cover up. That's not me. Not anymore. More questions, more cameras flashing. Ava ignored them all. More, to everyone I hurt, intimidated, or silenced. I'm sorry. That apology doesn't fix anything, and I know that. But I'm saying it anyway because it's true. I was wrong. I abused power I shouldn't have had in the first place, and I'm going to spend the rest of my life trying to be better than that. She stepped away from the podium and walked out without taking questions, leaving behind a room full of journalists scrambling to process what had just happened. Ryan watched the press conference from his truck, parked outside Mia's school, waiting for pickup time. When it ended, he just sat there, hands on the steering wheel, trying to figure out what he felt. Not triumph, not satisfaction, just a kind of tired relief. His phone rang. Sarah. Did you see it? She asked. Yeah. She actually did it. She released the NDAs and resigned. Ryan, this is unprecedented. Is it real, though, or is it just another move? I don't know. But if it's a move, it's a terrible one. She just opened herself up to lawsuits, investigations, and public humiliation. Nobody does that as a PR strategy. So maybe she meant it. Maybe. Time will tell. The school doors opened. Kids poured out into the afternoon sunshine. Ryan spotted Mia immediately. She was showing something to another girl, animated, happy, unburdened by press conferences and viral videos and battles between her father and billionaires. I have to go, Ryan said. Mia's out. One more thing. The discrimination lawsuit against Sterling. The plaintiff's attorney reached out. She wants to talk to you about testifying. About what? About the pattern of behavior. About what you witnessed. You're credible, Ryan. Your testimony could help her case. Ryan watched Mia skip toward the truck. Let me think about it. Watched Mia skip. Don't think too long. The trial starts in 3 weeks. Mia climbed into the truck, all smiles. Daddy, we learned about the water cycle today, and I got to be the cloud in our demonstration. That's perfect. Clouds are the best part. I know, right? They get to float around and rain on things. Ryan pulled out of the parking lot, listening to Mia describe the water cycle in excruciating detail, and felt something loosen in his chest. This was real. This mattered. Not the press conferences, or the interviews, or the public battle. Just him and his daughter, talking about clouds. That evening, after dinner and homework and the bedtime routine that had remained unchanged despite everything else shifting around them, Ryan sat in his living room with his laptop and started reading the stories that were already emerging from Sterling Industries employees freed from their NDAs. They were devastating. A woman who'd been demoted after reporting sexual harassment by a senior executive. A man who'd been fired for questioning an illegal accounting practice. Multiple people describing a culture where Ava Sterling's mood determined everything. Who got promoted, who got projects, who got destroyed. One story in particular stuck with Ryan. A young woman, her first job out of college, hired as Ava's assistant. She'd lasted 3 weeks before being fired for bringing the wrong coffee. The wrong coffee. She'd been so traumatized by the experience that she'd left the industry entirely, convinced she wasn't cut out for professional work. Ryan read her account and thought about the cafe. About Ava's face when he'd refused to give up his seat, about the entitled rage of someone who'd spent so long getting exactly what she wanted that even minor resistance felt like an attack. But he also thought about her at that final press conference. The exhaustion in her eyes, the way her voice had cracked when she talked about facing the truth. People could change. He had to believe that. Otherwise, what was the point of any of this? His phone buzzed. Text from Ava. I saw the stories. I read everyone. You were right to push me. I needed to see what I'd done. Ryan stared at the message for a long time before responding. What are you going to do about it? Ava. I don't know yet, but I'm going to figure it out. And not with lawyers or money. With actual amends. Ryan. Good luck. Ava. Thank you. For not letting me get away with it. I mean that. Ryan set down his phone and looked around his small apartment. Nothing had changed physically. Same creaky floors, same hand-me-down furniture, same galaxy projector rotating slowly in Mia's room. But something felt different, lighter. He picked up his notebook, the one that had been knocked to the floor that day in the cafe, and opened it to the blank page he'd been staring at before everything happened. Chapter 1. The House on Marlowe Street. He started writing. 3 weeks later, Ryan sat in a courtroom wearing the only suit he owned, bought for his father's funeral 6 years ago, and still slightly too big in the shoulders, and waited to be called as a witness in the discrimination case against Sterling Industries. Sarah sat beside him reviewing notes. You nervous? Should I be? Probably, but you'll be fine. Just tell the truth, same as always. The plaintiff's attorney, a sharp woman named Rebecca Torres, had prepped Ryan extensively. The questions would focus on his interaction with Ava Sterling, on what it revealed about her character and pattern of behavior. His job was to describe what happened and let the jury draw their own conclusions. When his name was called, Ryan walked to the witness stand and placed his hand on the Bible, swearing to tell the truth. Rebecca approached with a warm smile. Mr. Carter, thank you for being here. Can you tell the court what happened on the afternoon of October 14th at Meridian Cafe? Ryan took a breath and told the story again. Not the polished version from press conferences, but the raw truth. The confusion he'd felt. The moment of decision when Ava had shoved him. The calculated restraint he'd used to protect both of them. And when Miss Sterling offered you money to stay silent about this incident, Rebecca asked, what was your response? I refused. Why? Because accepting the money would have meant pretending it didn't happen. And I wasn't willing to do that. Even though the amount offered was substantial, life-changing even, money doesn't change the truth, it just buries it. Rebecca nodded. In your interaction with Ms. Sterling, did you observe anything that suggested this was out of character for her? A one-time aberration caused by stress? Ryan thought carefully. No. What I saw was someone who expected the world to rearrange itself around her needs. That kind of expectation doesn't develop overnight. The defense attorney, a polished man in an expensive suit, cross-examined aggressively. He suggested Ryan was biased, that he'd become a public figure by attacking Sterling and now had a vested interest in maintaining that narrative. Isn't it true, Mr. Carter, that you've given multiple interviews about this incident? That you've positioned yourself as a victim to gain sympathy and attention? I've told the truth about what happened. If that makes me look like a victim, maybe that's because I was one. You could have avoided all of this attention by simply accepting Ms. Sterling's apology and settlement offer. I could have, but then nothing would have changed. Ms. Sterling would still be running her company the same way, treating people the same way. The only difference is nobody would know about it. So you appointed yourself as some kind of crusader for justice? Ryan met the attorney's eyes. I defended myself. That's it. Everything else happened because other people saw themselves in what I went through and decided it mattered. The cross-examination continued, but Ryan stayed calm, answering each question with the same steady honesty that had defined everything since the cafe. When he finally stepped down, Rebecca gave him a small nod of approval. The trial lasted another week. Ryan didn't attend. He had work to catch up on, a daughter to raise, a life to live. But Sarah kept him updated, and when the jury came back with a verdict in favor of the plaintiff, awarding damages and finding that Sterling Industries had fostered a discriminatory work environment, Ryan felt that same tired relief he'd felt watching Ava's resignation. Not triumph, just the quiet satisfaction of knowing that truth had prevailed, however imperfectly. 6 months later, Ryan stood in the same corner booth at Meridian Cafe where everything had started. It was Tuesday afternoon, his day off, and he'd come here with his laptop and his notebook because some habits were worth keeping. The cafe had new management. Sterling Industries had sold the building, along with most of their real estate holdings, as part of the restructuring that followed Ava's resignation. Carmen still worked here, though, and she'd greeted Ryan with a hug and a free coffee. "You're famous now," she'd said. "We should charge admission for people to sit at your booth." "Please don't." The booth was empty. It had been empty the last 3 Tuesdays, too. Ryan suspected Carmen was keeping it clear for him, though she denied it every time he asked. He opened his laptop and looked at the document he'd been working on for months now. The novel had grown into something real, not perfect, not publishable yet, but real. A story about a veteran trying to build a life after war, about a daughter teaching her father how to be present, about small moments of courage that added up to something meaningful. He'd written 60,000 words. He was maybe halfway done. His phone buzzed. Text from Derek. "Lunch tomorrow. I'm buying since you're basically rich now." Ryan wasn't rich. The interview fees and speaking engagements had helped. He'd paid off some debt, put money aside for Mia's education, even started a small savings account. But he was still working construction, still living in the same apartment, still driving the same truck that needed transmission work. He texted back, "Not rich. And you're buying because you lost our bet about the trial verdict." Derek, details. See you at noon. Another text, this one from Sarah. "Good news. The plaintiff in the Sterling case is using part of her settlement to start a nonprofit supporting workplace harassment victims. She wants you on the board." Ryan, "I'm not qualified for that." Sarah, "You're exactly qualified for that. Think about it." He would think about it later. Right now, he just wanted to sit in this booth and write. The cafe door opened with its familiar chime. Ryan glanced up out of habit, then did a double take. Ava Sterling stood in the doorway. She looked different. No designer suit, just jeans and a simple sweater. Her hair was pulled back in a ponytail. No makeup, no assistance, no aura of power. Just a woman who looked tired and uncertain. Their eyes met across the cafe. For a moment, neither of them moved. Then Ava walked over to his booth. "Can I sit?" she asked quietly. Ryan gestured to the opposite seat. "It's a free country." She sat, folding her hands on the table. Up close, Ryan could see the changes more clearly, lines around her eyes that hadn't been there before, a kind of weariness that went deeper than physical exhaustion. "I heard you come here on Tuesdays," she said. "I've been working up the courage to show up for the past month. Working up courage, that's new for you. A lot of things are new for me." Ava looked around the cafe. "I haven't been back here since that day. I thought it would be harder, but mostly I just feel embarrassed." You should feel embarrassed. You acted terribly." "I know. I did act terribly. Not just here, everywhere, with everyone for years." She met his eyes. "I've been in therapy. Real therapy. Not the kind where they tell you what you want to hear. It's been difficult." "Good. I've also been reading the stories people shared after I released them from their NDAs. Every single one. Some of them I didn't even know about. Things my executives did that I should have known about, but was too focused on profits to notice." Ryan waited. He didn't owe her comfort. "Ryan, I'm selling Sterling Industries," Ava continued. "The whole company. Not piecemeal, not keeping a stake, selling it entirely and stepping away. The money's going into a foundation focused on workplace reform and supporting people harmed by corporate negligence." "That's good, but it doesn't undo what you did." "I know. Nothing undoes it." "But I'm trying to be better. Actually better, not performatively better." Mami party kishka. Carmen appeared with coffee. She set a cup in front of Ava without asking, then walked away. Ava looked at it like she wasn't sure whether to laugh or cry. "She remembers," Ryan said. "She should. I was awful to her too." Ava wrapped her hands around the cup without drinking. "I don't expect you to forgive me. That's not why I'm here." "Why are you here?" "To say thank you for not letting me get away with it, for pushing when it would have been easier to accept my money and disappear. You could have made your life so much simpler, but you didn't. I made it simpler for my daughter. She needs to see that standing up for yourself matters." "How is she?" "Your daughter? She's good. Happy. She knows something happened. But I've kept most of it away from her. She just knows her dad had a hard few months and came through it okay. Ava nodded. I don't have kids. I don't have much of anything anymore, actually. I walked away from the company, from the apartment, from most of the people I thought were friends. Turns out, when you're not powerful anymore, a lot of people lose interest. Must be hard. It is, but it's also honest. For the first time in my adult life, people interact with me because of who I am, not what I can do for them. It's terrifying and kind of wonderful at the same time. Ryan took a sip of his coffee. What are you going to do now? I don't know yet. Something useful, hopefully. Something that actually helps people instead of just extracting value from them. Ava finally drank from her cup. What about you? Still working construction? Yeah, it's good work. And the novel? I read in an interview that you're writing one. Still writing it, slowly. Will you let me read it when it's done? Ryan considered that. Maybe, if it's any good. They sat in silence for a moment, two people who'd been thrust together by one bad decision and had somehow ended up reshaping each other's lives. I should go, Ava said, standing. I just wanted to see if I could sit in this cafe again, face the place where everything changed. Can you? I'm here, aren't I? She smiled slightly. It's not as hard as I thought, just uncomfortable. But I'm learning that uncomfortable is usually a sign I'm doing something right. She started to leave, then paused. Ryan, you were right about everything. Power doesn't excuse cruelty. Money doesn't buy integrity. And real change requires being willing to lose everything. I'm grateful you taught me that, even though I fought it every step of the way. I didn't teach you anything. I just refused to let you define reality for me. That's the lesson. Anyway, thank you for being stubborn enough to make me better. Ava walked out of the cafe, and Ryan watched her go. This woman who'd attacked him 6 months ago and inadvertently changed both their lives. He didn't forgive her. Forgiveness required time, required proof that the change was permanent, but he thought maybe someday he might. People could grow. People could learn. Even people who seemed too powerful or too broken to ever be different. That was worth believing in. Ryan returned to his laptop and read through the last chapter he'd written. The protagonist, a veteran named Marcus, was teaching his daughter to ride a bike in a park, and she kept falling, kept getting frustrated, kept wanting to give up. Sometimes the only way forward is to keep getting back up, Marcus told her. Not because it gets easier, just because you get stronger. Ryan smiled and kept writing. That evening, after picking up Mia from school and making dinner and helping with homework about the solar system, Ryan tucked his daughter into bed and turned on the galaxy projector. Artificial stars rotated slowly across her ceiling. Daddy? Mia said sleepily. Yeah, baby. Madison's mom said you were brave. Is that true? Ryan thought about it. I don't know if I was brave. I just did what I thought was right. That's what brave means, silly. Doing what's right even when it's scary. Ryan kissed her forehead. When did you get so smart? I've always been smart. You just noticed. He laughed and stood to leave. Daddy? Mia said again. Yeah? I'm glad you're my dad. Ryan's throat went tight. I'm glad you're my daughter. Get some sleep, okay? Okay. Love you. Love you too, baby. Ryan closed her door softly and stood in the hallway, listening to her breathing even out into sleep. He thought about everything that had happened since that Tuesday afternoon in the cafe. The fear, the pressure, the public scrutiny. The lawyers and reporters and strangers who'd tried to define him as either victim or hero when he was just a person trying to do his best. And he thought about the cost, the stress, the sleepless nights, the constant worry about whether he was doing right by Mia. But he also thought about the alternative, about taking the money and signing the NDA, about teaching his daughter that integrity was negotiable, that the powerful could buy silence, that standing up for yourself wasn't worth the discomfort. He couldn't live with that lesson. Wouldn't live with it. So he'd stood up. He'd fought back. He'd refused to let someone else's money or status determine his worth. And somehow, in the process, he'd helped other people find their own courage to speak up, to demand better, to refuse the easy path in favor of the right one. That was worth every uncomfortable moment. Ryan walked to his bedroom, past the punching bag he didn't need as much anymore, and sat on the edge of his bed, He pulled out his phone and looked at the last message Ava had sent him after leaving the cafe. "Thank you for showing me who I could be instead of who I was. I won't waste it." He didn't respond. He just closed the message and set his phone aside. Tomorrow, he'd go back to work. He'd frame walls and run electrical and do the honest labor that had always made sense to him. He'd pick up Mia from school and listen to her talk about whatever new thing had captured her attention. He'd sit in his corner booth at the cafe and add another few pages to the novel that might never be published, but that existed as proof he could create something meaningful. He'd live his life the same way he'd defended himself in that cafe, with integrity, with restraint, with the knowledge that real strength wasn't about dominating others, but about refusing to be diminished by them. And maybe years from now, when Mia was grown and facing her own moments of decision, she'd remember her father not as the guy from that viral video, but as the man who taught her that character was built in small moments of choosing what was right over what was easy. That was the only legacy that mattered. Ryan lay back on his bed, staring at the ceiling, feeling the weight of the past 6 months finally lift. The battle was over. Not because someone had won or lost, but because everyone involved had been forced to become a little more honest, a little more accountable, a little more human. That was enough. Tomorrow would bring its own challenges. It always did. But tonight, in this moment, Ryan Carter was exactly where he needed to be. A single father in a small apartment, raising a daughter who believed in him, building a life that measured success not in money or fame, but in the quiet satisfaction of knowing he'd stood his ground when it mattered most. The galaxy projector in Mia's room painted stars across the hallway. Ryan closed his eyes and let the artificial constellations be the last thing he saw before sleep finally came, bringing with it dreams of ordinary Tuesdays and corner booths and the simple, profound grace of getting to try again tomorrow.